I got extra. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our commission workshop. The date is June 20th, 2024. The time is now 5:38. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Kelly,
Present.
Commissioner Bass. Here. Commissioner Williams,
Here.
Vice Mayor Urban,
Here.
Mayor Taylor.
Here. As we stand for our invocation and pledge of allegiance, by Commissioner Bass.
Father, we thank you, Lord God, for this day. We thank you, Lord God, for our family and our friends. We thank you, Lord God, for our city. Father God, we ask you that you will continue to be with us, guide us, lead us, and protect us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're gonna open up for public comments. And remember, because this is a workshop, we ask that you stay germane to the discussion items at hand, which is the special events and the ARPA funds. Public comments is open.
Audrey Dominguez, 1147 Jen Avenue. I went back to an ARPA workshop that was done on July 18th, 2022. I would encourage everyone to see the workshop at which some of you were there and present, and you could see what was stated and promised at the workshop. The city received $8 million from ARPA funds. $400,000 was paid to an independent consultant firm who recommended what the ARPA funds can be used for. The balance of $7,600,000. 75% of the ARPA funds was allocated to infrastructure. 25% was left for the commission, which was 1.229 million, to recommend where they would like to see the money go to. Beautification projects, illegal dumping, abandoned structures, vacant lots, community involvement, swales, gateways, waterways, medium parks, residential commercial property appearance. The gateway estimated cost was $298,000 in a time frame of 18 months. It's been past the time frame. As you already know, we still don't have any gateways. Sesame Street Bridge, design and construction start date, March 2022, and end date, April 2023. The cost, $937,447 was allocated. 800 was still, and it's still not started yet. I've seen the signs, but I have not seen anyone start on that project. Remember, it was March 2022 when this project supposedly started. Residential painting program, ARPA funds, which was 20,000. And I know some of the commission even stated that that was very little money because you could probably only paint maybe 4 houses, depending on what the resident need. And I've yet to see any house painted with these funds. Park appearance and programs, 620,000 ongoing. We should have had the swing sets by now with that money, a long time ago. The historic fire station restoration project costs $402,319. Start date was January 2022, end date September 2023. I have not yet to see anything go through with the historical fire station. The HR building, start date January 2022, end date September 2023. The cost $125,000, and it was just for demolition. Building is still there. As I stated before, a lot of items were promised. Everybody was excited about what was coming about for the city with these ARPA funds. Yet, if you see something, tell me, because I haven't seen anything done. So my question to you is, why aren't the audits complete? And to me, they're all connected to the ARPA funds. Thank you.
Commissioner, what was the meeting that you referenced? The date of that meeting?
July 18th, 2022.
Thank you. All right, public comments is still open. Public comments are closed. All right, Mr. Manager, we're gonna turn it over to you to shepherd this process, and we're gonna start with special events.
Thank you. So we'll start with special events, and then we'll address some of the comments of former Commissioner Audrey Dominguez, which will be presented by Ms. Adelina Gross, since those are capital improvement projects, and her critiques are going to be are directed at her progress in those projects, and we'll go through those one by one. But we're starting with the special events. We requested this workshop because this is the budget season. And we wanted to have a conversation with the commission and get feedback from the commission on the direction that we want to go to, or the direction that the commission would like to go to with regard to special events. Our Financial Support Services Department, formerly Budget, is going to be helming this portion of the workshop. I'll just give a brief 30-second overview. Fiscal year 2022, we spent $42,000 on special events. Fiscal year 2023, that number jumped up to $158,000, and we still have some expenses from credit cards that I didn't see included there. So that number is actually a little bit higher. And then for the current fiscal year, we've already gone through 110,000 and 128,000. So you can see that we're on track to triple our expenses for our special events. So we wanted to get some feedback on the commission at the request of also the state on how we are going to budget and allocate. So what we did to kind of assist that conversation is we have some recommendations and some caps, and I'll let the Financial Support Services Department lead us in that conversation.
Mr. Manager, I missed the last part. What's the expectation of the commission tonight? So while he's doing the presentation, we can know what you expect in the conversation.
Yeah, so we did send an email with the projects in it. Hopefully get some guidance on the commission. This is the budget season, so we do need to have a conversation on what the budget's going to be, what events will be included, what the budget would be for those events, or at least some guidance and recommendation for us to take. Now, this isn't our budget workshop, but at least if we get some guidance from you guys, when we come back for our budget workshop, we will have a kind of idea of what you want to see.
Okay, so this is not, okay, that's what I wanted to hear. I have some changes.
Yes, of
All
course.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Kelly?
I have just one question before I get started. The presentation and the numbers that you're recommending or will be suggesting are based on what millage rate?
The current millage rate.
The current millage rate?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Yep, Nick, it's the second PowerPoint, sorry, we jumped, Arthur, where to go on first? Yes. Good evening, Commission, Mayor, Dake Schwarte, Senior Budget Analyst here at the City of Opa-locka. I have the honor of speaking to you today about our special events. Nick, if you can go to the last slide. The city manager did a wonderful job of introducing our historic, what we spent historically. And what the budget team has put together on the very last page is what we're proposing for FY25. For an appropriate budget in FY25, we feel the number for special events should be about $120,000 in total. So to get to this number, some things are going to have to be postponed, delayed until the following year. And other line items, as you may see, we have decreased the allocation to those. I want to point out a specific line item that does say commission discretionary. I think everybody at the dais understands that the state will not allow us to have that anymore. I only put that in there so that you all can use that funding if there was something that was amiss. So that's kind of a reserve or in addition to if you would like to see any additional programs.
So the 7,500 divided by 5.
Yeah, $1,500
$1,500.
each.
Got it.
You know, we start getting into a place where if we start changing some of this, then other parts of the city have to then be looked at and scrutinized a little tighter when it comes to the budget process. So with that, I open up to any questions, concerns. How do you all feel about what we've put together? I think some of the things that we put together are geared more towards the children. You know, we feel that kids want to have a great place and want to have an opportunity to celebrate. So those are some of the items that we put together and with a little bit of a focus on the children.
Yeah, and I think it would be helpful to the commission to walk them through each one of the proposed items. The first one obviously being postponing the Arabian Nights. The Arabian Nights, we estimate on the low end is going to cost the city about $500,000. And we had set aside $250,000 as seed money and was looking to raise the rest. So our first recommendation is how the commission would feel about postponing the Arabian Nights to support having an event budget of $120,000. Given that we started with $40,000 and now I think we were over $150,000 last year.
So postponing it until when? 26?
Yes,
And you're suggesting that if we take away Arabian Nights, we'll then have the 120?
well,
To
It's
support
gonna
the
be-
120 is what you're saying.
well, this is a proposal. This is just recommendation. So that's one of the things that we said that if we postpone that, that's $250,000 right there that we have that we can put back towards some of the items in the budget.
Okay, I'm not in the course of postponing it because we postponed it 3 times so far since I've been here. And I would rather us work to raise the money for the Arabian Nights. If we start now and create a date next year, I think we can, through donations and sponsorships, get the money needed to have a successful festival. But that's just me.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Williams?
so I'm gonna be honest. I don't like it.
I appreciate your honesty.
You're welcome.
It's our best approach. It was what we put together.
And I want to tell you why, because, and I've said this before, we sit up here and we basically are always, and I'm saying we, the 5 of us are always robbing Peter to pay for Paul for any events or anything that we do. We, granted, some of them may go over a little bit, but that's just because that's the nature of the beast. It depends on whoever is planning and possibly may not give us accurate budgets, but that happens every day in the city, every day, especially what I saw in my agenda briefing today. But I think where I'm concerned, and I just gotta be honest, is this is nothing compared to what our neighboring cities do. And for us, the 5 of us, to have to actually be shortchanged and go down when there are all these projects that we're constantly passing, all these projects over and over that, no offense, the CIP happens. I mean, like, I'm talking $1 million projects, and I get it. It's capital improvement. That's important. It's infrastructure. But there are a lot of other things that I believe we can take a look at the budget and decrease projects that other departments are doing. And those things can be decreased so that we can be able to do. And it looks like a long list, but I'm telling you, it's not compared to our neighboring cities. And then, of course, we know some of the things, I mean, we could see year-to-date expense. There's holes right there. So some of the things didn't even happen. Or they didn't require any budget. they may have happened, but didn't require a budget in terms of probably outside expenses or donations or et cetera. Can one or two things go down? I'm okay with that. But to say we're gonna take away Arabian Nights, 100% against. I feel like since I've been up here, we have pushed, pushed, pushed. As a matter of fact, this is too low. That number is absolutely too low. I don't know. I see our new marketing firm here. So I don't know if it's out of order for her to speak on what that will look like, but I'll ask her to come up in a minute. But it's just, we're being shortchanged. I don't like it. I disagree with all of it. As a matter of fact, I disagree with this. I mean, it just really makes me feel like the city just like, well, y'all stuff is not important. And then even to say like, this is for the kids, so we feel like it's important. Well, the five of us feel like everything we do is important for the whole city. Whether it's children or seniors or women or like the statement alone just, I don't know. I don't like it. Yeah, I'm done.
I apologize. The statement was my statement, not
That's fine.
that of
No,
the
but
manager
that's
or
the
the office.
reality. But that
was-
is the reality as to
Yeah.
why, some of the stuff has been cut. I'm just
and those
saying.
that are blank may not have happened yet. Like
Yeah.
Juneteenth, we have, I mean, that was
No,
just
I
yesterday.
understand
We
that.
have it.
Those
Yeah.
things that are blank
Yeah.
probably didn't happen or could have been,
Yeah.
could have been done.
Or they're in the future. They may come in the future.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean, so I did want to go back, and I don't mean Mr. Mayor to take up
Oh, no, go ahead,
all
go
the
ahead.
time, but I wanted to go back. The commission discretionary fund, can you just elaborate a little bit on that? A little
Yeah,
bit more.
If I may. So, we were having a budget meeting, we started this whole process with trying to figure out what the commission wanted to do for travel and those kind of budgetary items. So we were putting together the budget, and Brian Hunter from the state was in on the very first meeting, and I believe Mr. Mayor was with us in that meeting. And it was a complete surprise to us when he turned around and said, we're not allowing that discretionary line item anymore. I don't know if you saw my face, but I kind of said, oh, we didn't know anything about that. So then I believe there was a second meeting that we had, and Commissioner Kelly was in on that. And again, Brian Hunter spoke up and indicated that. And I believe, if its memory serves me, everybody on the dais was spoken to by Mr. Hunter, saying the state is not going to allow a commission to have a discretionary fund. All they would like us to do is to plan and say, hey, in September, I want to do this. And now the manager, the city manager, we now have a events coordinator that can help us put things together in a more timely fashion. I think that, that's what the state is looking for. Think ahead, be able to be proactive than more than reactive, and say, hey, this is what the state is looking for. Let's put it down on paper. Let's put it in the budget. That's all. So, one of the line items I definitely going to make sure that's going to be in there is a fishing tournament, because that doesn't show up in here, but I know Commissioner Kelly likes to do that. And that's what the state would like to see. So when we present the budget to the state, it will show a line item that says fishing tournament twice a year, once a year, 3 times a year, whatever it is, and have a line item there. And that should appease the state. Should.
Madam Commissioner, if you don't mind. Okay, so I remember that meeting
Yeah.
very well.
Yeah.
And as I said, like I said, then I didn't agree. And I understand streamlining the events. However, our ordinance says, and I told you about this, Mr. Manager, that the commission has the right to vote. We set the discretionary fund. That's a law that we passed here in the city. So how is that, I guess that's a question to the attorney and the manager.
Yes, I will defer to that.
I get it, but the ordinance says that the commission sets the discretionary through our events policy.
Yeah. Well, I can answer it from from administrative standpoint. The state has a contract with your city manager's office with the permission of the commission to provide them with oversight of our expenses, including budget approval authority. So he's operating on that. I did share the ordinance with him, as I told you, and let him know that that's there. So it's going to be, I would rely on legal to give some type of opinion of what would be controlling, but I did share that ordinance with the state.
All right, and Commissioner Williams still has the floor, but I will say this. I understand the whole streamlining of the events. I get it, and I think it's necessary because these are recurring things and we know what we're doing in the city.
Yep.
However, that's where I was a little challenged because, yeah. And I'll yield back to Commissioner Williams because she had the floor. Commissioner Williams. You finished? All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Kelly?
it's a million things on there. And you opt to talk about fishing. I just, other than that, so they're
Commissioner-
Probably because it was the least expensive and probably his favorite.
He wants to talk about fishing.
I am a fisherman, so
Oh,
that is
that's
why,
why.
that
You're
is
biased.
why, yes.
Well, then you should increase that line item. Seriously speaking, I've had this discussion with the manager's office and quite honestly, we're in a tough situation. We're in a tough situation. I don't agree with the position necessarily of the state. I understand why they want us to do it because they have so many challenges with how we're procuring and they feel like we get stuff to them the last minute and it's not planned out and we don't have a follow-up to say how it went and an analysis whether it was effective. So all those things need to be encompassed. I get that side of it, but I'm going to go back to the saying that the mayor says that the commission sets policy. Now we go outside of that, that's a different story. So I'll leave that to the legal department. What I want to look at in the events going from 22, 23, and what you're proposing now. And I hear my colleagues, the Arabian Nights, and even wanting to increase it, et cetera. I've been back now 2 years. When I got back, it was a one amount. We're going to build on that. It was 250 amended, and now we're talking about postponing it again. But what I want to ask a couple of questions, and some of the items, and my colleague alluded to it, some of them have no expenses related to them, and some have obviously more. The real question I just have is, why did we allow this to occur? Because we know we're in financial emergency. We know what the line items are within the budgeted amounts. And yet, if we've exceeded them or wasn't budgeted, to me, there should have been something said even way before now. And that's a frustration I have. And I'm saying going forward, you got to do a better job even of letting the commission know if the events that are being proposed, what have you, are over budgeted, not, sufficient enough, et cetera. Because when you look at 23, from 22, it was, really nothing there. Went to 23, and even with the commission discretionary, the way it's broke down, it really went only over by 4,000. So to say that the commission's discretionary has some big impact, am I correct in my numbers, Mr.? I'm on 23
Yeah,
because that's
so what was budgeted, including the commission discretionary fund at that time was 104,000 and we spent 158,000. So
no,
there-
well, I'm saying the discretionary 50,000 for the commission. When you break that down, and all of those were
Oh.
quote unquote commission discretion.
Yep.
It only went over 4,000, so it wasn't a whole lot in terms of what the commission actually went over. Now, some of the ones up to the top, they seem to have some differentiation, but the ones the commission actually did not go over by a whole lot. So I'm kind of challenged by hearing the statement that I heard earlier. And then with the marketing and some of those other line items that I'm sure the commission must have passed or someone deemed necessary as an expense, Those things have to be taken into account. Now, two things that I want to just notate, and we ain't got to spend all day. You got to propose what you want us to do. Some of my colleagues have already weighed in on how they feel about Arabian Nights. So to me, that was your hope right there, because 250 was going to get you down really low. It was going to get you down to 196. That was really doable. So you have to put anything or more. That was your hope right there. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's correct. So having said that, it was going to be like if you took away Arabian Night, 196, and that's how you kind of was looking at the rest of the items. You kind of nibbled off of each one in your proposed 2025. Now I do want to say, because since it's workshop, let's just put it out there. Notice you got bingo 24, but you're proposing 6. So I hope the commission sees that. And I only say that because bingo is one of the premier things that happens in this city, that everybody in the city, regardless of young, old, diverse, whatever, attends, and it's become very popular. Now, I'm not to say that where that amount ought to be, but if there anything needs to make sure it's covered in a sufficient way, it's bingo, because all of us, all 5 of us have seen the impact and the positive impact it's had on the community and the diversity, even within our community. Everybody participates in bingo. So I'm a little challenged by seeing.
But Commissioner Kelly, before you move on, based on a resolution passed by this commission, bingo, we set an amount for $3,000 going forward per month. And that's also not, to his point, is not included in this budget at all.
That amount is included. What Mr. Schwartz is talking about is a recommendation. So this is just a recommendation for the commission that if you wanted to start a discussion with these numbers.
Well,
That's
that's the challenge I have, Mr. Mayor, to pick it back. If the commission has passed 3,000, okay, unless we decide to do it differently in the new fiscal year, then it should have been allocated at 3,000. Now, the manager's office is recommending 6 total, which takes you down to almost, y'all do the math. So how much?
500 a month.
500 a month. And I just don't see 500. I'm just being real.
Yeah.
So,
But
but the commission passed legislation. I think that's what a heartburn I have with some of my colleagues. We've passed things that we know as a commission in the past, and you're budgeting them. If they're not sufficient enough, you need to come back and tell us. There's a reason why we do it. We don't pass just to pass it. You got to come back and tell us this exceeds whatever, and let us decide which way. Because the way this reads now, you're putting 6,000 in bingo. We all know sitting up here, $500 for a bingo is not going to do it. Right, 200 people eat with spaghetti in a roll. But the way we do bingo, which is very nice, I mean, I'm not knocking that. And obviously, maybe we need to look at some sponsorships, and I got that. But that number is just too low. But I'm bringing it up because of the policy side. If we pass policy on some of these things for bingo to be 3,000 per whatever, then to me, that number should have been there. And then say to us, could we half it, or could we three-quarters it?
We are doing that. If you look at this current fiscal year on page 5 for fiscal year 24, which is the year we're in, it's 24,000.
Wait a minute, what page you on?
Page 5.
Okay, I'm on 5.
If you look at that top column, for bingo is 24,000.
Wait a minute, now my page 5 is not your page 5, so.
Yeah, it is. It's the last page, but it's still the proposed FY25 budget.
It's a proposal, so it's a recommendation. We have a fiduciary obligation to
Yeah,
make
well, is
recommendations.
this the one where you're saying bingo is 24,000?
Currently,
Year to date is 11,000 for.
That's correct.
Proposed 6,
yes,
18,000 that you'll be saving.
that's the recommendation. Now,
Because
Mr.
that's
Schwartz
but the point I'm making is, Mr. Manager, if the commission passed 3,000 a month.
I
and
understand
you
what you're
don't
saying,
agree
sir.
with- And you say that's too much, that's fine.
Okay,
But the commission has already set a policy, whatever 3,000 times whatever,
yes, sir.
that's what it should be. Now, obviously, that's gonna be a high number.
That's what's here. What the commission passed in the current fiscal year is 24,000, and that's what's here.
Okay,
That's what's here.
So
Okay.
basically 18,000 is a cut. The
That-
cut is 18,000 from 24.
Give me a second,
right?
Commissioner. Yes, that is the recommendation of the
Recommendation.
financial support services, but I believe he also said that you have a discretionary money that you could allocate to any additional one of these events, and maybe bingo's the one that we should do. How much is that?
$7,500.
$7,500. So if you
That's
add
each
it,
though. That's
That's
each.
$1,500 each.
so 70, if you wanted to add that $7,500 to bingo, then you're up to 13,500. And then if we could, these are all recommendations. You may say, you think we should be, well, if we keep the Arabian Nights, we are going to be looking at, a very high special events budgets. And I heard what Commissioner Williams was saying, and I understand. We've got Miami Gardens to our north, which has 100,000 more residents than us, a much larger budget. So it's going to be very, very difficult for us to keep up with those kind of expenditures. We've got North Miami, we've got Hialeah, we've got Miami Lakes. We're the smallest city out of all the cities that surround us. So these are just recommendations from the financial support services department to say, hey, how can we streamline, at the request of the state, how can we streamline our special events? This is not written in stone. What we're doing, we're on track right now to hit 446,084 cents for this fiscal year, if we push forward with the Arabian Nights as planned, which will start those expenditures, securing someone that will, create a deck, create a deck for fundraising, a contract, put an RFP out for a management company, those kind of things right there. So we just wanted to, well, the department wanted to I directed them, take a first stab at it. Don't just walk in there and have the commission, have no recommendations for the commission. So this last column, fiscal year 25, is just those recommendations. And any way that the commission wants, if the commission says, we want $150,000 for the year, and we want to add some additional monies to all of these items or some of these items, that's one item. So if you agree to keep it at 120, but you want to shift things around, we can do that. If you say we might be able to get it down to $100,000 and do a little bit more cutting on some of these events or shift some things around, that's the purpose. We want to hear from you all. I guess the first question is, what's the will of the commission on the recommendation of $120,000 annual special events budget?
Mr. Mayor, for the mayor, I'll give y'all that wonderful question. I had one more question I wanted to add, and I'll be done. Part of the discussion that the state did bring up, and I didn't see it here, is a form or something that would take place after every event to show some kind of analysis of its effectiveness and its impact. Have you all put that form together yet?
So there are going to be two parts to the answer to your question that's being worked on now by the new special events coordinator, Ms. Yvette. We wanted to try to take a stab at this in two parts. One part being the numbers and then one part being the policies. I imagine that one of the things that the state will respond with is, yes, you do have a special events policy and you're not following it. One of the things in our special events policy that we need to get some guidance on is, do we want to go with the current special events policy? Do we want to make some changes to it? Because according to our special events policy, yes, there should be a meeting after every special event to discuss pros, cons, recommendations. Did you go over what the changes are? Special events require 90-day lead time. So according to our own special events policy, if you haven't announced that this event is happening within 90 days, it can't proceed. So that is going to be a part of the conversation, but we wanted to get the numbers first, and then have the commission give some guidance on how you want your special events policy to look.
I brought that up because you are recommending a decrease in some numbers. So I just assumed somebody had some discussion to say, instead of it being 24, it's down to 6, or instead of being 5 for MLK, now it's down to 3, because somebody's had some discussion to see, based on what was expended, that recommendation. So that conversation, somebody's had a conversation for you to decrease these numbers in some form. but you just haven't done it in a form or document. You just did it verbally in a meeting.
That's my understanding. That's what this document is it not, Mr. Schwartz?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's based on what data? So what data is being used to determine that, let's just say the bike.
Oh, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't direct them to do that. I
Because if
said,
we, hold on, 1 second. I'll use the bike thing. If we did the bike thing and it costs, bike Opa-locka, and it costs $1,000 and we spent $1,000, why would you decrease it?
well, if you don't have the money, you have to decrease it. You have to decrease from somewhere. There's an assumption that we have $500,000. And I think the concern is we may not have $500,000 to spend on special events and what the impact is going to have. Now, again, rightly noted, yes, if we do spend $500,000, we will have to shut down some of these capital improvement projects. And if that's the will of the commission, we
So this is
absolutely
based on
do
the
that.
cost savings.
Yes,
Okay,
Yes.
that's what we're
Okay.
trying to get. That's what we're asking, what data are we using to get the numbers?
we're here to,
Okay.
we're here to support. We're here to support.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, Commissioner
Oh,
Kelly's at the
okay,
floor,
sorry.
and then I'll go to you, and then Vice Mayor after.
I'll just pause. I'll just pause. Let me be brief for a moment. Go ahead.
Okay, Commissioner Williams, and then we'll go to Vice Mayor.
No, go ahead. I can wait. Oh, okay.
I thought you had-
So just because of the cost savings, and I did mention capital improvement, but then again, and going back in my memory bank, we're constantly increasing a lot of those capital improvement projects as well. So I think what I'm saying, and the reason why I'm saying that is, I mean, and I love to jug at Cairo Lane, but I'm gonna jug at it. We're constantly saying we're going to spend this and we pass a budget and then we come back and we spend more, but we find the money somewhere to increase all these other capital improvement projects that we've been doing, which have been quite lengthy. We had a presentation on it. This looks like a big list and I get it, maybe two things, two. Personally, I don't want to cut nothing, but maybe two. But nonetheless, because again, they're all near and dear to our own personal hearts. And these are things that we feel like will benefit the community in some way. So I think that's the thing for me, the reason, I mean, we know the mayor liked the bike, right? So he has a pin with a bicycle on it. So as a lapel pin. So I mean, like, if this is someone's passion and, you know, or gospel in the park, or, you know, the Memorial Day pool party, which, by the way, let me tell you something, you slash that, Jalen coming for you. But I just think that they're all so important and special to each one of us in so many different ways that now we're saying we're going to slash this budget by $300,000. Isn't that what I'm seeing? 300,000. And, but there are all these other projects that we're constantly increasing because we thought the demolition company was going to do this, but now they want $30,000 more. We thought this was going to happen and now we need $20,000 more, or $500,000 more. Like, why, how is it that we're constantly finding those monies, we're constantly ratifying agenda items, but we get slashed? Like, I don't like it. And I think that's my issue that I have.
So let me address that, Dig. The notion that we're not slashing all across the board in every single department, that's not correct. We took extensive cuts across several departments before even having this conversation about any of the items on the special events, including the police department, including the parks, including capital improvement projects. And also the notion that we're finding money to do capital improvement projects, that's also not correct. The Carroll Lane is a perfect example. Carroll Lane's cross, the more we learn about Carroll Lane, the more expensive it becomes. To the extent that the 27th Avenue Canal is now looking like $1 billion cleanup. Based off of toxicity analysis that we have. Now, we're already in the conversation based on some documentation that we found to demonstrate the county would be responsible for that cleanup, and we're having that conversation with them. But Carol Lane's cost is already ballooned to almost nearly $10 million. And the most that we could possibly allocate is likely 6. And so we're having those conversations. What can we do? How can we move these projects forward? And what projects are just gonna have to be postponed?
No, I get it. I don't, and Ms. Gross, please don't take any offense to it. Thank you. Appreciate it. No, and I understand and I get that, but I think that's the thing because the commission doesn't know that. And so like you're saying that now, but we did not know that. And this is the first time I'm hearing that every department is taking a slashing or every department is taking a beating. So we're sitting up here with an assumption of what is happening. And that's why I'm saying what I'm saying constantly, each meeting, but because we don't know that information.
Yes. So those conversations started just in this budget amendment, budget season. So I haven't even gone through, I've only gone through police, public works,
CIP.
and CIP. So that's only 3 of the departments. We still have to get through 8 more departments. But those being 3 of the largest, we started cutting on those right away when the numbers came back. The simple thing is that our city's not growing enough. It's budget. We all budget. You've got to have more money come in to match your expenses, where our expenses are growing, but our revenue is not growing up at a nice pace. We would need to be growing the city at a much faster pace to see our tax revenues increase. It's not matching. And that's where the rub is. Our expenses are going up like this and our revenue is like this. So that's precipitated. I think we only had less than a 5% increase on our tax revenue this year. So those are the numbers we have to work with. Those are the conversations that we're going to be having with you when we go into this budget season, that if we're not going to grow this city, or at least if we're not going to grow the city, we've got to cut back on these expenses.
Mr. Manager, I'm sorry, Commissioner Williams. Now I'm a little challenged. If we set a budget in the beginning of the year based on the revenue that we knew was coming in, and monies was not expended on those projects, then there should be a savings, correct?
Correct.
All right. For example, so then to Commissioner Williams's point, we ratify a lot of things because we're spending more than we're taking in, because we're using monies for other projects instead of using the money for the project. We said it. So we said that we was going to spend $5 on parks. We should have only spent $5 on parks. But when we're getting ratifications that, okay, now we're going to ratify that we spent another $1, then that dollar adds to another $1, and then that we found addition. So now you're telling us that we didn't spend the $250,000 for the Arabian Nights. So that's a savings but you're taking that away.
We're not taking it away. These are recommendations for the commission to choose if they like and not choose if they don't like. These are only recommendations. We're not taking anything from the commission. We'll be more than happy when we get through the budget season and we get through all the departments to show you all the cuts that we can find. We're not taking anything away. We are on the same team. We're on the same side. These are recommendations based off of, the budget season starts when the county gives us what they expect our tax revenue is going to be for the next year. The moment we saw those numbers, we met and said, we're not making enough. We're not going to not projected to bring in enough money from our tax base to cover our rate of expenditures right now. What do we do?
But the project that we did not do this year was a savings. So that should roll over to the next year, correct?
On October 1st, that will, as he demonstrated to you, some of them, even though there's 0 lined out, it's because they just haven't happened yet. Juneteenth being one of them.
No, I'm not talking, I'm talking the overall picture of the city.
So
the overall budget, because there are a lot of projects that we were supposed to complete or start this year that we didn't go forth with.
But they're still budgeted. So it wouldn't go over as a say. If you didn't do the project and you do it the next year, you're still going to need that money to do it the next year, correct? So it's nothing saved. It's just the time frame of which you're going to do it changes.
So so that money rolls over to the next year.
Yes, to do that project, but at the rate of expenses.
So it's an equal, like.
Correct. So if you didn't increase your expenses, which we have, which we're doing, if everything doesn't increase like the residents say, then we would be fine. But that's not the case.
But we didn't increase. That's my point. You're proving my point. We saved money in Parks and Rec, yet you're cutting. If we
So-
save, then it should be what we save plus.
I'm trying my best to explain the process, and I don't know where I'm insufficient in the explanation, but these are numbers. We'd be happy to sit down to you or have you show us where we're missing, where all these savings are that we have, the three of us have not been able to allocate and identify, but I just don't think that's the case. We've gone over these numbers over and over again. These numbers are what the numbers are. We will do everything. This is the will of the commission. We work for you all. So whatever guidance that you give us, we will move forward with, but we have a fiduciary responsibility to let you know where we are.
Oh, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor. Wait, Commissioner Williams. Vice Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Hi. I hear you. We can probably do this till next week. I understand that you're just getting some feedback from us so that you could move forward. Let me give you my feedback. Okay. Maybe instead of us doing a weekend event with Arabian Nights, maybe we have to do a one-day festival. Can we do it for 250? We could try, I'm sure. Okay. With our Christmas celebration, looks like it's gonna equal out. Things are going up every day, unfortunately. I would like to see Christmas definitely not go lower. If anything, possibly a little higher. I know I'm not sure what kind of tax revenue we get from apartment complexes, but I can tell you with our Christmas toy drive, a lot of our residents come from apartment complexes. I would like to see that increase. Our tree lighting, our tree, I'm not sure. Listen, the tree that we had this year was absolutely gorgeous, decorated and everything. If they could give us the same price we had last year and that remains the same, I am happy. Because, the tree was nice and it was decorated beautifully compared to the year before.
Yes.
But I'm not going to talk about
There's-
old stuff.
There are no cuts in the Christmas tree celebration or the Christmas lighting.
Okay. And I'm not sure for the city's birthday celebration, I was heartbroken when I saw that it was only a $15,000 budget. I was heartbroken because the year before it was 20 and in my head, I still had 20. However, maybe there's a way that because we do on that Sunday, a gospel portion, maybe that gospel in the park could be combined with the city birthday. I don't know if that would help us in any way. I'm not sure. I could tell you that Easter, when I was in the store this Easter, those baskets, nice baskets, were starting $15, $20 for Easter baskets. And you still haven't given, you still have to have like the music portion of it. There's a lot of other portions that you have to have for the Easter event. Halloween, I'm not gonna cry too much about Halloween. There was a time that we used to charge like $3 for each person to go through the haunted house. I wouldn't want to bring that back, but I'm not gonna cry too much about that one. 4th of July, fireworks are rather expensive.
If you notice for the Vice Mayor,
Yes,
this was the only event that I weighed in on. That's the only event I weighed in on. And we actually increased that by $5,000. If you see here, it was budgeted for 20,000 and we increased it to 25,000 because we have never been able to get the fireworks for less than 20,000.
correct. I understand. Thank
Okay.
you so much, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm okay with the Juneteenth. Karaoke, you're gonna negotiate something with our karaoke guy. I see a decrease here. So you're gonna negotiate that, Mr. Negotiator?
That would fall on my office.
Okay, okay. Because karaoke has to stay. I like our MLK walk. It was our school book bag giveaway. $4,000. I kinda thank you for not changing it, but I
That's a set aside of $20 per bag.
yes, but we also do other stuff. Well, I'll get some donations. Okay. Because we feed the families and provide other little, we made it almost like a family day out in previous time. The track invitational meet, I'm not sure what that is. I see we took that away completely, correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay, because I don't know what that was. And I shouldn't be selfish. I should discuss all of them, but we discussed bingo already. As my Commissioner Williams say, everything is near and dear to us, but we have to do what we have to do. I know that our community, after not being able to do community events for so long, I can tell you that they are hella excited that we do events now. And I would like to be able to continue to do events for them because it does makes a difference. It's sending your child to school with Bobos on when everybody else have on Nikes. And that's how we've been for so long. We're doing nothing, but all of our surrounding cities are doing something and we do nothing. We did that for so long. And I too have to say, I'm glad that we're able to do something for our residents here as of late. Yeah, I didn't have my glasses on, but that's all I can see for right now. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Williams had a hand up. And then I go to-
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, we can just circle back to Arabian Nights really quick. Is it possible through, the mayor, Mr. Manager, if I can have Ms. Motkins come
Absolutely.
up really quick?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I know I'm putting her on the spot. I'm so sorry. The street said they didn't recognize you, Ms. Motkins.
Hello, how's everyone doing? Jessica Motkins, hip rock star, 12386 Southwest 82nd Avenue, Pinecrest, Florida.
Hi, Ms. Motkins.
Hi.
Great to see you.
Great to be seen.
Again.
Yes.
So happy to have you back. Quick question. If you can give us, and I know this would just be hypothetical or just assumptions in terms of Arabian Nights. We did budget $250,000. I know you do events for other cities. And of course, we know we would have to start off small before we get to a specific scale. My question, multiple questions, is that a sufficient amount to start off something here in the city? Of course, it may have to just be like a 1 day or thingy. Just, I guess, what are your thoughts around this budget? And can we swing it in 2025?
Okay, can you swing it in 2025? We're 6 months out. May I say something else before I answer your
Of
question?
course.
So I've been listening to this conversation and there's several things that I see that hasn't been discussed, nor do I even know if it's something that you have considered. My experience in other municipalities, I see these things missing. Revenue. They charge for things. I don't know that Opa-locka charges for anything. Those things that I have been involved with the city has always been free. They charge. Annually, they have decks that are put together that talks about all of the events that they're doing for the entire year, benefits of their relationship with the city and whomever that corporation is solicited. Those sponsors are brought to every event. Every month, you have different sponsors or the same sponsors who bought in to that sponsorship for that event. And it's not necessarily an annual sponsorship. It's multi-year. You sign a contract with Pepsi as your bottler for your parks department. That is a multi-year contract. It's not just a one-off event. And then the last thing is other cities have nonprofit partners. So the city actually has a nonprofit entity that solicits for sponsorship and or to pay out for whatever it is. So for example, one city that we do their event with, the money that they raise goes into a fund to assist the residents to be able to pay bills, their utilities that they may not be able to pay. So there is this fund that is pulled out and it helps. So all of the things that I mentioned kind of cover and assist in you all being able to give back to your stakeholders. Going back to your question now, 6 months. If it is in the summertime of next year, I think that you have enough time to fundraise to be able to plan and have an event. $250,000? No. Because I have heard some of the vision of what it is that you all wanted Arabian Nights to be. And $250,000, when I heard the manager say that was seed money, that would be seed money. You would need about $500,000 to do that.
To do. Okay, going back to the city that you referenced with the paying the bills. If we did a festival equal to what they do there, what does that look like here?
I believe you're asking me financially.
Mm-hmm.
It would be,
$500,000.
yes.
So if we did that here, do we have time, to Commissioner Williams' point, to raise that money? Let's just say springtime. What are we looking at? Spring?
April.
April of next year.
No,
If we start off with the seed money of 250,000.
no.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
May I-
But if you decrease what you wanted to do, use existing things that you have within the city and not come with, AV is the main thing. It's going to eat up your budget. The jumbotrons, the stage, the lights, it will go to almost a third of your budget, will go towards just getting it to a point where you can have an artist of a Anthony Hamilton per se, get on stage to perform.
And Anthony Hamilton would be $20,000.
No, five.
5,000?
5,000.
That's it? Oh,
That's all.
So let me ask you a question.
Oh, that was a joke. That was
definitely
a joke.
That is
Oh,
not true.
that's-
That was a joke. That was a
So-
joke.
Their event, do you remember how much they spent on that event, roughly? Ish?
Can I look in my computer?
But Mr. Mayor, remember, I've always said it's going, for us to do this. I didn't say great, as a nice starter, it's going to be $500,000.
No, I'm with you.
Yes.
You know, we're on the
It's
same
going
page.
to be
Yes.
every bit of.
Yes.
We on the
That's
same
what
page.
We
major
did, we
sponsors.
did source those numbers. So we went to other cities. One of the contractors I met with was indeed Jessica Motkins, as well as two others. We went to two other cities. I met with the city manager of one. What does these costs look like? And based off of what they did and what we wanted to do, that's where we got $500,000. And the determination was made that at that time, we could set aside $250,000 and raise the other $250,000 as our goal.
It,
Commissioner, sorry, Vice Mayor.
I mean, we are in the process of redeeming ourselves. And I want us to be mindful when we start talking about sponsors and stuff like that. They're still watching. They're not sold that we can do what we're trying to do. Yes, we are changing the narrative, but there's a lot of sponsors that's not gonna come our way. And
Yes, ma'am. And to add to that, when the question came up, can it happen in April? And utilize the ability to raise the funds have to be raised with a relationship. It's not just going to be that we have X amount of events for the calendar year. There has to be some sort of relationship where they deem that they want to invest in what you're doing. They see the value in your residents, and that is something that has to be projected.
So, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. So you mentioned, one thing you mentioned was fundraise. Who would take on that task? Does this-
Whomever you all decided.
We've never decided. That never came up until now.
Yes, ma'am. I was just pointing
No,
out
I
a
think
couple
it's
of things
everything. That was great.
that I
'cause we
thought
didn't know
that
this,
you
and
should,
that's-
yes.
No,
ma'am.
I mean, I'm saying, we decide, but I guess what I'm saying is, would that be someone from our city side would be that person? Or how does that?
No, ma'am.
No.
No, ma'am.
He said no. Okay,
ma'am.
everybody said no. Okay.
The other places.
Would that be a contracted service out?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Says more. And then my next question, you talked about revenue. If I was Pepsi, the owner, CEO, would that look like they see all these events that we don't charge? You mentioned revenue before. Would they feel like they're going to get return on investment if they gave us $20,000 for Arabian Nights, but yet we're not charging for anything? So maybe our residents are so conditioned to think that everything is going to be free, that Arabian Nights may be free as well and may not want to pay. I'm just curious,
So
would that be, I'm thinking
there is a, through the mayor, I'm sorry. There is a learning curve that you have to consider. I'll liken it to church. When you're constantly having events for your parishioner for free, you can't just one day say, we have William Murphy coming and we're going to charge $50 per person. There has to be you have to teach them, for lack of a better way to describe it. If it is something that you're ending up saying, we do need the support of the community and we would like to charge for these events, then maybe these youth groups get free tickets, these schools get free tickets, and outside of that, it's a nominal fee. And over the years, you would raise it to assist so that the city is not having such a burden. But I would never recommend for you to come out and in the beginning stages have these fees for your residents if they're
'cause
not
I'm not paying.
accustomed to it.
I'm
Oh,
not
no,
paying.
they're not.
I pay taxes. I'm not paying.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Kelly.
The question is going to come down to what the commission wants to do. What Ms. Markins is saying is the same challenges why the Arabian Nights eventually didn't go any further years ago, because it got to the point where the city was subsidizing it so much. And some of the other cities that she's worked for initially were subsidizing until they had to go out and get sponsorships and charge, et cetera. And that's what makes it long-term viable. But what the city should have done years ago, which was a major challenge, even from the dais, was to create that nonprofit arm to really do the fundraising, to take on that whole task and take it out of the city's hands. And so if you're looking at long-term, that's probably where you're going to need to get to. Anything short of that, I don't care if you push it back another year, 2 years, whatever, to make it really viable. You've got to, as she said, change the culture, the mindset. I will say the Arabian Nights as a festival was not all, everything wasn't free. You know, there were folks who had booths, everything, they had to pay for the booth. You know, the lemonade, people that came in had to give you so much, and they calculated that based on what they thought they could sell. So that can be done. I think for me, at some point, we've got to have an Arabian Nights Festival. We really, all of us talk about it. A lot of our residents have talked about it. We're going to be doing it. And I've been back now 2 years, and we still haven't done anything. So I'm just saying, whether we start on a small scale, if it's not 250,000, if you're going to wait for another year, that there really is a commitment, since you're here, to put all those things in place, even if you don't want to start, but you got to start somewhere. Otherwise, we'll be in 26 and still don't have an Arabian Nights Festival. I'm not trying to compare it to Jazz in the Gardens or North Miami's, whatever, or Hialeah's, whatever. But we've got to start somewhere. We've got to start somewhere. And so if that means part of the charging for events, and that's going to be bitter pill to swallow. But again, Arabian Nights itself was free to come in, walk around, but the vendors were paying. There was other things that city was selling T-shirts or whatever. So there was revenue being made. And then it comes down to the timing of it, because a lot of your artists, depending on what time of the year is, they're cheaper to get than they are other times. If it's cold up north, they really want to come down here in the winter time. That's why Arabian Nights was so successful early on, because they want to get out of the cold and come down here. So I think it's doable, Mr. Mayor, and to my colleagues. Ms. Marks will give you some good analysis. I'm just saying, if we're going to commit to Arabian Nights and we're going to do it, we have to start the process somewhere, whether it's not a 3-day, if it's going to be a 2-day, but if you're going to push it to 26 because we're not of time, but we can't keep saying we're going to have a festival and it's 26 and never have anything, because we're spending money on other stuff. So, we need to make that decision. I would hope, Mr. Mayor, because I know you've been talking about it with some of prior to us coming back, because you've been budgeting for it. So if we don't do the Arabian Nights, is really what the manager's suggesting, but if the commission's will is to do it, and I think we need to say very succinctly to the manager what we are looking at for that first initial, whatever it is, and when it would be, very clearly, and it needs to be done within this budget process. But I'm going to go back to the same statement I started with regarding all of these items, whether we keep them, slash them, and some of us have weighed in on, and I didn't even give mine what I thought should be added, but some have. It's all based on the same millage rate that you currently have. Please don't lose that in the translation, because that has a major impact in this whole dialogue and discussion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask a question, and we're all Opa-lockians here. Before the Arabian Nights went belly up, didn't we start charging when it moved over to the airport?
Yeah, which term?
And it went belly up? Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay.
Never done that, but
My recommendation, Mr. Manager, for this event is that you have individual meetings with us. Because we have not accomplished anything. And we still have to do the ARPA,
I gave my
which is,
suggestion.
because there are a lot of things that are on here. I have a lot of things that I want to add to it. And we have been just talking in circles for an hour and some change. So I would like, I see your face, but I suggested this 2 months ago, that we have individual meetings to get the input, and then you bring it back at a later date in a more opportune time,
Mr. Mayor,
so that we could, and then that way you can state your claim as to why, and this is the reason why, and because a lot of the things you said tonight, to Commissioner Williams' point, we wasn't privy to. So
Yes, sir.
but again, that's just my suggestion. And Vice Mayor, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, you meeting with us individually, do you have time for that? Like,
It is often very, very difficult to meet with all members of the commission individually on any items.
I know.
Extremely difficult, but we will try.
But we have agenda briefings every other week, so you can do it at that time, which is when we have mine. So this is important. So I would assume that the commission would make time.
Yes, sir.
The budget season. And then by the time we come back to talk about this during the budget season, we should be prepared and ready.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Williams?
and I would completely make time, albeit school is out, I am still working, but the children aren't there, so that's,
Oh.
so I can definitely make all the time
Thank
in the
you.
world to meet with you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. So moving on, so our hearts and minds are clear as it relates to the special events budget, hopefully. All right, so moving on to the opera part of the workshop.
All right, so, I'd like to address some comments that were made just to clear the record. I'd like to, invite, Ms. Adelina Gross up, to give a progress report on the gateways, give a progress report on all the efforts the city has made and time spent to move forward with the Sesame Street Bridge. Give her findings, with what we found with the HR administrative building and those costs, and all the hard work that you've put in and try to move those projects forward, please.
Good evening, Commissioner, Mayors, Mayor and Commissioners, sorry. Adelina Gross, CIP Manager. Just to clarify, July 18, 2022, we did have a workshop. It was a CIP workshop to present all the projects and all future projects for the city. As well, in that workshop, it was included some ARPA recommendations that the staff completed at that moment. That included sewer and drainage and also some roadway work. That was only recommendations, not adopted projects or projects that were currently happening, or in the case that they were currently happening, they were in earlier stages of design. And regarding fire station HR building, that project did start the design January 2022. However, the city requested that an investigation was completed through the architect to see if the building was actually a national historic building as it was claimed. My apologies. As it was claimed, that took around 6 to 8 months to be completed. It turned out that it's not historic as part of the national record or state record. That's the information that was given from the architect. And the building was in its early age of design at that point by April 2022. However, that project was stopped by previous management. And it was stated to us in administration, and that project had to stop because it had a point that so the building was going to be knocked down. So the
This
architect,
is the HR building, the fire station.
the HR building and the fire station.
Both are going, okay.
Yes,
When was that?
because this is a
I'm
combined
trying to figure
project.
that-
When was that?
That was informed to us by the previous city
When was the
manager.
time? April. you
Time.
said
April 2022, 2020, April 2022. 2020, you have 2 years here. Okay, yes.
April 22,
Yes.
2022.
Yes. So by July, the project was brought back. It was again, the design started again. So survey, electrical, and all that planning had to be completed through the architect. That has been already, the plannings are currently at 90%. As I stated a few meetings ago, we were going to be receiving the plans in 60 days. That's still the schedule of this project. And we are still we haven't still put out that proposal for construction yet. So as far as the estimate that is written in this budget or that was presented back in 2022 is an estimate from 2022. As we know, prices have changed and construction has increased. On Sesame Street Bridge, that project was in earlier stage of design. We had a hard time getting permits for that particular project for Miami-Dade County because we have a canal, and that canal is going to be not affected, but it's going to be perturbed when we do the construction. So they had serious concerns. Also, there is a sewer force main on that section that goes through under the Sesame culvert. So that was an issue for the county. So the permits, we actually got it last month, to be honest, last month. And all the records are there. So we went through design, RFIs, answering to the county, reviewing the design, submitting again, having all of this. So now the contractor is ready, as it was stated earlier. Yes, the sign is put, everything is completed, procurement process is completed from the contractor. Shop drawings need to be approved for the project because this is a very sensitive project. It's not only a road that you put there, it's actually a culvert that will convey water, and it has impact in other infrastructure, not only the road. Yes, we want to finish it, but we want to do it well.
Gateways.
Energy gateways. So last year there was issued an RFP for this project. We issued the RFP with the conscience that we were going to be restoring the two main entry gateways that will be the ones on Sharasat and the one on 135th. And the rest were going to be modernized, and the idea is to make them all look the same. So an RFP was issued June 2023, sorry. A contractor was selected by September because in the meantime, the resolution and all the other stuff, by September, the contractor was selected. We had several issues with we have several delays with the previous contractor regarding documentation, and that contract was terminated as per convenient for the city. That's the term that was used at that moment. And we are looking for another route. The other route is piggybacking a contractor with already established price that can provide all the services and restoration for those entry gateway signs. We are already working on that. Item has been submitted to the administration to present it to commission. So you will be seeing that soon. Any other concern that I may address?
Mayor,
But the gateways, was that already a part of the original ARPA plan?
No. I have. Okay, so what was presented in 2022 was the list of projects, and I have them here. So we presented 4.2 million for stormwater and roadway projects. We presented 2.1 for water and sewer infrastructure improvements. And that was a 370,000 that was allocated, not even allocated, it was proposed or recommended by staff at that moment. Over time, those projects and priorities have been not modified, I will say, because Bob, I will step into your presentation for today, but
Where is that you're looking at? 'Cause
I don't see that at all.
that, the
That's
presentation
why
that was
I
on the
asked.
screen, that's,
What you were referring to?
Oh, Commissioner.
oh,
Kelly.
that's July 18, 2022. That was the presentation on the screen at the moment,
Yes,
that
ma'am.
presentation.
Commissioner Kelly.
thank you. I'm gonna try to maintain my calm.
Yes, sir.
I'm really trying to maintain my calm, Mr. Manager. I'm looking at something from July the 18th, 2022 that has to do with ARPA infrastructure. Now, I won't speak for the Vice Mayor, but we didn't come in until end of the year 22. I asked when I came back, anything related to ARPA, anything the commission had passed or discussed. I never got this information. I never got the information that the fire station, et cetera, was trying to find historic designation 6 to 8 months to find out that it wasn't historic. I never heard that, never got that. Never knew, hearing it now, maybe it was told to the commission, my colleagues, including the mayor, they were here, so maybe they can help me, that it was stopped in April of 2022. But I didn't hear you say it was stopped by the commission.
No,
It was stopped by the manager.
yes.
So the question I really have, was the commission notified that it was stopped?
That I
Or
don't,
why?
that I don't know, sir. That was the previous manager.
Previous manager.
Yes.
Okay, who was handling this before you got here?
Mr. Ari Austin.
Okay, well then, Mr. Manager, Mr. Austin ought to be able to tell us, because the projects haven't changed. And so that's my frustration. Managers might change, staff ain't changing. And I'm going to say that it relates to the Sesame Street Bridge, because when I brought that up way back, we'll meet me Monday, almost a year and a half ago, we had challenge with the procurement process because the bids that came back were much higher than what we were proposing or what our engineers had said. I said then, we need to get on top of the fact that folks are giving us a price that is going to cost $5 and all the bids are coming back for 10. It went back out and it still came back where they wanted more. Am I correct? Because I want you to, am I correct? It came back. It's still what they wanted was still more than what we recommended or our engineers thought. So we had to change the whole thing. And so we still wound up paying more. Again, staff doesn't change, even if managers change.
Mhm.
So I have a challenge with seeing this long in the process because it's not new. Now the gateway signs or the commissioner made some modifications, passed some legislation. So I won't deal with that one. But I want to get, Madam Clerk, I want to get all of the documentation from July 18th workshop meetings, whatever that was given to the commission at that time. I want to get all of that because I'm hearing and Ms. Gross is referencing stuff that I don't even know. Now, my colleagues and Mayor, you all might know or to remember it, but I don't, because I'm challenged that it takes 8 months to find out that a building is not historic.
Yeah.
And how much do we pay? Do we have a consultant that we hired to find it out, or we did that internally?
The architect that's completing the design for rehabilitation of the building was in charge of that portion.
And it took them, well, you said 6 to 8 months.
Yes.
So it took them that long to find out.
Yes, because they searched national records. I took over CIP on May, that was already happening. And by the time we received the information, what they notified us is no national records, no state records recognize this building except for City of Opa-locka records as a historic fire station or historic building.
Okay, I'm going to say this in the context because where we are now is not going to go backwards. We got to go forward. And I'm saying this really to my colleagues and to the manager's office. Going forward, these projects, whatever they are, we have to do a better job of the time frames, the timelines, and holding folks accountable. 8 months is too long to find out if a building is historic or not. I mean, I could probably Google and find out something historic quicker than that. And then they're getting paid. I know they're getting paid. They weren't doing it free.
No, of course.
Same thing with the Sesame Street Bridge. I've said with the engineers and architects that we hire in that group, and it still keeps happening even now, where they're coming back saying to staff, saying to management is going to cost $100,000. When these folks bid on it, it's $250,000. There's something wrong with that analysis. When everybody's bidding much higher than what we're projecting, then we got to come back, and that's where you got to find extra money.
Yeah.
That's where you got to find extra money to make it work. So this Sesame Street Bridge from where y'all probably thought back in 22 or whenever, I'm quite sure that price has gone up for what it's going to probably cost. Well, no, they bid on it. We wound up selling with some amount. But again, we got to do a better job with our projects. But I want to get the information because I have not seen that. I asked for when I first got back. And again, managers may change, staff ain't changed that much.
And
So there's no excuse to me. So Madam Clerk, if I can get all of that, I would appreciate it. Because I was not here and I would defer to my colleagues on it was stopped and where they notified and all that good stuff, but okay.
through the mayor to Commissioner Kelly. Commissioner Kelly, I do understand your concern. It has been a concern that our contracts that we have currently for either construction, engineering, or other services that we procure are not strong enough. And that has been a concern from our department, that is not as strong enough that we cannot enforce for our engineers to provide us or to go after them if they give us a price and then that price changes. We do understand that price changes because they just work with if with an FDOT lease price of lease that price list that that provides a standard number. However, when it's not only changing on prices, but also changing on designs because there was an oversight on their end, we don't have a way to hold them accountable for that.
I appreciate you saying that. I've said that numerous times, and I'm saying that to my colleagues now as well, because going forward with whatever we wind up projecting or whatever is recommended and the commission passes, you're looking at 6 million, whatever the number, more projects coming on board or being put out there. And if you're not going to have close numbers, you're going to still want to have the same challenges going forward. So Mr. Manager, I would suggest that you maybe get with the attorney to find out how you can tighten those things up. Because I've said it too many times. Your own staff is saying it as well. So it's something the commission needs to pass to make our process more stringent, because I've seen it numerous times. And with these projects that you're probably going to be mentioning or talking about in a few minutes, some of them could fall in the same category. We're going to get told that it's $5 and the number is going to come back in $8. You know, doesn't make any sense.
Mr. Mayor,
Madam Attorney, one second. Commissioner Kelly,
How are you?
Madam Attorney?
yeah, I just want to, kind of weigh in here. When Ms. Gross says the contracts are not strong enough, we were just talking, we have no idea what she's talking about. Because what happens is when they go over the amount, it's supposed to come back for you all to review it. It's not supposed to be just them doing the work and then it gets ratified or an amendment later. That's not supposed to happen. So if they reach an amount that is not contracted for, the work stops, and the work is supposed to come back to the city commission to do an amendment to the contract for the new amount, to extend the time, whatever it is. But what's actually happening is, agreements are being made and work is being done, and you all don't see it again until it comes back to us as to write it up for ratification. So we don't even know that this stuff is happening. And in addition to that, we don't determine whether or not, when you put out an RFP, whether you decide to do a bond or not, or whether you decide to do any other thing. A lot of this stuff is being done as a part of the RFP process. So we don't approve that. They're bidding on that. They're putting it with a contract. And that's what the contractors are supposed to be held to. But in all of the contracts, there's a date, there's a period of time they're supposed to complete it in, there's a scope of services, but when decisions are made that exceed the scope of services, that exceed the time, that exceed the amount, those are not things that are defects in the contract. Those are management contract issues. And so I just want to be clear, what we're talking about here. So we've gone, back and forth a little bit in trying to explain that to the CIP director, and I guess it's just not resonating in any kind of meaningful way. So,
well, let me just say this. Let me say this. What I've said, and I'm very clear on what I've said, and I think Mr. Manager and Ms. Gross, because it's not the first time you've heard this, and I'm really saying it for the benefit of my colleagues, because it's money that's going to actually have to be spent as you get these projects off the ground, hopefully get them off the ground, particularly these dealing with ARPA, because they got to be encumbered and all that good stuff by a certain time. So futuristically going forward, whether it's contracts or has to be ratified, or as the attorney state needs to be done and come back. You know, you can have those discussions, but I've mentioned what I'm saying several times now, and here's another example of it right here. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know time. I want to hear about the projects.
Mr.
One second, Mr. Manager.
I just
Commissioner
wanted to
Williams?
go back to the gateway through the mayor, the gateway, and I didn't want to. If I recall, wasn't the previous marketing firm involved in that gateway project as well? The
They-
firm?
They assisted with the RFP, but they had no involvement with the contractor that was selected and moved forward on the,
I guess what I'm saying is I recall, because I was excited. I mean, we were all excited to have that gateway done. But I recall having these conversations inside, not only on the dais, but you know, our weekly meetings or whatever, so or every other debrief. And those gateways were a solid, like it was solid. The plan was solid. It was ready to go. It was gonna happen. And so much so that the marketing firm themselves, a particular person also was involved heavily in the design and what that's gonna look like, and spoke with a few of the members of the dais about, you know, we're ready to go with the gateways. And now it's like, all these months later, it was like, what was it? Is it cement? Like the whole thing has to be redone because it can't even be, but it was, I mean, literally, I'm just saying, the language has to be so clear when we're having these conversations with commissioners. Because remember, you all are having your conversations, and then the conversations that we have are like kind of hit or miss, or we, you know, and other people are involving themselves, because I do recall that particular marketing firm involved themselves in the gateway and the discussion of how it's going to look, and this is going to be, it's ready to go. So when we convolute conversations like that, it's not on you. It's just, it's when we convolute those conversations and make it seem as if this is a go, it's a sure fit when it's not. I think that's my concern. I keep saying that it's about backwards planning. We're not backwards planning. If we look at things global, I don't know, I feel like I'm a broken record. If we look at it global and then we work our way up to the goal, then we won't always have to keep moving the goalposts. But every time I turn around, it's a goal, and then we have to move the goalposts more because we can't reach the goal of where we as a board establish. And I think that's why it's frustrating. And I'm going to say it again, it almost feels like we're robbing Peter to pay for Paul right now. So we have, and I've said it, so it's not like, you know, anyone else, but so we have these constant ratifications, and we have constant, you know, agenda items where we're increasing other things. And so in those increases, now let's decrease the commission budget in order to pay off some of those increases that have to go other places. And so that's the part that makes me think like something's happening here, that if the commission has to suffer and we have to have our budget slashed because everybody else, because it's called planning, proper planning, not piss poor planning. I'm sorry, I got to say it. So that planning is not happening because we keep moving the goalposts. And every time we move the goalposts, we're moving it higher. That goalpost is getting more expensive, and we're paying more to other things. All these other little 50,000, 100,000, and 500,000, that adds up. And so I think the commission, we need to stop and step back and look at how many times in this fiscal year we've moved the goalpost or allowed the management office to move the goalpost. And because we're going, yes, 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 to certain things, and nobody's saying to us, well, by the way, this is going to impact the budget and decrease what we got to increase over here, but this is going to take away from over here. We're not, if those conversations aren't being had, here we are right now, it's being had, and it feels like it's not a good feeling, because I remember that gateway should have been done.
Contractor background.
Madam Vice Mayor, to Commissioner
Yes.
Williams, there are a couple issues here that are conflated. I want to go down those directly. Because it seems like the notion is that, as you said, piss poor planning or the incompetence of staff, and I want to.
Sorry, I didn't say that. I
Okay.
never used the word incompetence. So I'm gonna
Oh, well,
actually, please take that back.
Okay, I'll take
I
that back.
never said that. I never used
I
the
would
word
actually
incompetence of
prefer to be
staff.
called incompetent rather than piss poor planning, but I'll take
But the
that back.
planning, it's called
So-
planning.
So it's the statement, piss poor planning. Let's talk about this. And I can recite these off the top of my head, and it's not to the piss poor planning. Let's talk about the gateways. Every document that we ever looked at said that the gateways were constructed this way, that they were built of a certain center, that they had a certain foundation. Every document we have, every document we relied on. One of the gateways happens to get struck and hit. So we go put out an RFP, we get costs based off of that information. One of the gateways get hit and we realize that it's hollow. Not only is it hollow, so then we knock another one down and it's hollow too, which dramatically shifts the cost of those gateways. And then we have challenges with the vendor. So then we are going back and negotiating, trying to move forward. But the notion that is poor planning on our parts, because all of the documentation that we have says that those documents were solid and they're not. And that dramatically changed the prices. Let's talk about Historic City Hall. I went back to 2016 and all the documents in Historic City Halls, and you can attest to this because I had you look at it as well, had the elevator system constructed a certain way with a certain amount of motors that could be utilized. When we start to go in there, we realize this is all a facade. This whole thing has to be replaced. And that is not piss poor planning on administration's part. We reviewed, let me finish. We reviewed all of the documentations at Historic City Hall. It wasn't piss poor planning, it was discovery. Now let's talk about the police station. The police station had illegal, undocumented fuel tanks in the ground. And we discovered one. I went through the county, I went through the state, which those are supposed to be documented. No city has the authority just to put a fuel tank under the ground. That has to be authorized by the state and the county that you reside in. City of Opa-locka put fuel tanks underneath the police station, not one, but two. With six?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm talking about the two we discovered. 6 fuel tanks in the ground, which is an environmental hazard with no documentation whatsoever. So of course, we're now have a demolition cost that we're kind of fighting in the blind. So I think we had a budgeted for 4, and we discovered 2 more fuel tanks. There was no way for us to know how many fuel tanks were in the ground. And that is a great transition to the conversation of ratification. Ratification is something that we do to save the city money and to save the commission time. It's also an administrative decision. I, as your city manager, have no problem whatsoever ending the ratification process completely. But let's talk about what the ramifications of that is going to be. Every single time a ratification is required, we will call a special commission meeting to see if that project can move forward. So if that's the middle of the night, if that's a Saturday, that's what the special commission meeting is going to be, to say, hey, this is what's going on. We need you guys to make a decision on this immediately so we can proceed. Because if that doesn't happen, a project that costs $1 million could cost $2 million and never be done. Why? Because we saw that happen before. I wasn't here, but we saw that happen with the Historic City Hall. When a vendor stops working on a project, it is extremely difficult to get another vendor to come down there and finish their work. Sometimes they can't get bonded. Sometimes they're just not willing to do it because they don't know what the cost is going to be or what their work is going to be. So when we do a ratification, it is so that we can preserve the cost that we have moving forward with the information we have. Again, I have no problem suspending the whole ratification because it's an administrative policy and procedure. So I can direct them to never do a ratification ever again. We'll be calling special commission meetings. We run the risk of not being able to complete some of these projects that are underway. So this is not something that's done that the management team is piss poor planning, or we're just doing whatever we want and we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Again, the issue here is not that we had cost overruns at some of these, because all of these projects have, not all of them, many of these projects have contingencies, and many of them have stayed within their contingencies, because this is construction, this is development. We understand here in the United States that you get a cost, whether it be your home or whether it be this building, you get a cost for $1 million, it's going to turn to be $1.1 million. Commissioner Kelly walked us all through that process when we're looking at the cost for the air conditionings. It's a fact. So the issue here, and it is not to point the finger, the issue is that the city's tax base is not growing swift enough to cover the expenses that we have projected. That's what it is. We had a very, very, very low tax projection that we got from the state about what our revenue is going to be. So if we're going to continue to have Arabian Nights and have these expenditures, we have got to grow the city. We've got to get some shovels on the ground. We've got to put some multi-million-dollar buildings up. We've got to complete some things so that we can, so that our tax base increase. So that's the reason for us, having these conversations with you about the budget. So I just wanted to, say those things to kind of
So
clarify.
let me just respond. So in all three of the examples, the discovery should have happened before it came to the commission for RFP. And because there was no discovery of the tanks or the elevator or everything else that is increasing for every project that we're doing, because most of the projects that we're doing are being increased for whatever reason. I'm saying, why is that discovery not happening before it comes to us, before it comes
Okay,
to
so
the
let me
commission?
make sure I understand your question. I understand
And then-
your statement.
Mhm.
It is your position that administration should have known about the elevator before putting it out for the RFP, should have
So,
known about the tanks on the ground
so
before putting that out for
Let me say
RFP,
this.
and should have known about the
If
hollow
there's
gateways.
if there's a systemic issue happening, and what the systemic issue is we say 1.5, it ends up to be 2.5. Or we say 500,000, it ends up to be 700,000. That's systemic, that's happening. What I'm saying is then why are we going for RFP for 1.5 when we know systemically things can happen in our city? That's why I say, if we have a goal, we keep
I
moving the
understand
goal
what you're
up.
saying, because we don't have the authority to continue that when it's something that's outside the scope of work. So if the scope of work says A, B, C, and D, even if it doesn't change the cost, if we're going to allow them to do E, we have to bring that back to you.
And I just wanted, if you don't mind, Madam Vice Mayor, if the city attorney can respond to the ratification issue.
So it's not only the ratification issue, it's doing amendments without them coming back to the city commission. So I actually just pulled up, just by putting in a word search email, sent one just this year, February of this year, to Ms. Gross and Mr. Williams and and Ms. Shemeka, basically saying, I'm following up from a meeting that they had, and that I pointed out standard language in the contract which is in all of the contracts, which talks about if you're changing the scope of work or you're doing additional work, you have to bring it back to the city commission, and you have to do it in a form that says what the project name is, the description, the project cost, the estimated cost for additional change. So that's the stuff that we're not doing. So there's no issue with the contracts. The issue is.
So you have
not
an
the
example
issue-
of that?
Excuse me. I have an email that I sent to you. It was February 27th.
You haven't said the
It was
project.
February 27th,
You don't-
2024 at 1:45 p.m. And I'm telling them what language and how it has to be done. So consistently what's happening is things are not being brought back, and then they're just being either just done, or and maybe there's no change, or the people are just billing them. And then the city is somehow paying, and I don't know whether it's coming back or not. You can't even track it. I don't even know. But we're not getting these amendments unless we're getting ratifications. So that's what kind of the issue is. The issue is not a contractual issue. The issue, you would be protected if you followed the process of a contract. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but it's a myriad of different things that are happening, and I don't know how they're being tracked, quite frankly.
Madam Vice Mayor,
Yes.
to Commissioner Williams. This has been an issue that the CIP manager has been attempting to resolve with the attorney's office for over a year. There has to be at least 100 email requests. Can we do this? Can we do that? Would you help us? Would you? And more importantly, when we have our next meeting, what I would like I'm requesting that the CRP manager be present with all of the emails, at least for the last 18 months, where there's been requests to support and change these contracts in a manner that would be fashionable and support of the cities and the administration's request. So that would be provided to you in writing,
Yeah,
and we can walk through those.
Please do, because it's
I'm
not
talking-
true.
Madam
excuse me.
Attorney, Madam
Should
Attorney,
not
Excuse me.
we're not gonna do this today.
Thank you. So I'll be more than happy to provide that documentation to you. It's in black and whites and email. I'll provide it to all members of the commission. This is not an issue that we've been trying to push to the commission. We've been jumping through hoops to try to keep these projects moving forward. I've intentionally told the CIP manager, let's do whatever workarounds we can. But if this issue is going to be bubbling up to the commission, we will provide all members of the dais with the documentation that the administration has been attempting to resolve with legal.
And just for the record, I have no idea what he's talking about with relation to this issue, because this issue of a question about ratification and the point I raised about not following an amendment process, that is something that can be done right now. It's not something, I have no idea how he's blowing this off on something
Okay.
that legal is doing. So I'm gonna move
Okay.
on, because I don't want this to be about, our department or anything
So-
like that, but it's ridiculous.
Thank you.
Madam Vice Mayor,
Yes.
I want to go on a record to personally apologize for my comment. Because I know it's going to be flipped as if I'm speaking to all the employees, when that's not the comment that I made. But I know it will be, and it was. So I'm going to personally apologize for that comment, and because I know it will be. But nonetheless, I don't want to go into, I think that's the frustration that I'm having, and it's been 4 years. And I was hoping that in these last 2 years, I would see some movement in a lot of the ARPA projects. When you talk about July of 2022, I was the mayor then. And so not seeing those projects that should have been happening, should have taken place, a boot on the ground, and it's a little disheartening, because we do see other projects happening in the city and other people's, again, I think we have to prioritize. And so if the commission is asking for certain things to happen, we should see it happening. I think we'll be here all day with the ARPA, because there's so many conversations that have happened. I know there was a community workshop with the ARPA as well, and the community wanted to see some other projects happening. I don't know where that fits into this workshop as well. We saw beautification. I don't know where that fits in this, because I don't, because the backup, like, it's not much backup to from 2022 to now.
And I apologize for that. I had requested that all of the workshop documents be included in the backup, and apparently that didn't happen. So I do apologize for that, Commissioner Williams. We will get those documentation to you of all the previous workshops. And thank you so much, Ms. Gross. And we'll have the financial support team now walk us through the projects.
Madam Vice Mayor,
Yes.
before you move on, I just want to state for the record, since I've been drug into this situation, I have asked for, since the last meeting, when I made it clear on the record that you all had seen ARPA funding come back before you, I've asked Mr. Anathan, as a public records request, which I shouldn't have had to do, to provide any and all email that he would have had with the consultant, so I could try to figure out what in the world this stuff is. He gave me any and all email, and it basically had nothing in it that was substantive. The only, the email, for the most part, like 80% of it was about the guy not being paid, but it had no contracts. It had nothing that he had prepared. It had no advice that they had given. I asked for then, hey, can you give me a recording of any meetings that you may have had with the ARPA consultant so that I can kind of figure out whether these things on this paper that basically tell us nothing fit within the legal requirements of what funding is supposed to be given for ARPA. I still haven't received anything. What you have is what I have. And I just want to make it clear on the record that if anything comes back later where this is approved and something is not done consistently with the ARPA funding, I have nothing really in these descriptions to even look at and try to figure out. And the consultant that you all have paid thousands of dollars to, the staff has nothing to justify what that would have been. I don't know whether these were telephone calls that Mr. Anathan was having, but he's asking questions. Nothing's coming back as responses, and they're still sending bills. So, you know, go figure. But I want to put it on the record to make it clear that, you know, we still, just like the commission's asking about what supporting documentation there is, we don't have any as well.
Thank you.
Madam Vice
Mr.
Mayor.
Yes.
So since we are clearing the record, I want to give the full background story there. The original statement that was made is that the administration had not even gotten approval to secure consultants. And the legal stated, where did you get these consultants? Where did you come from? I don't know who these people are, when this was actually an item, a resolution that was approved by legal. So that statement that was made was completely false. I'd also, clarifying the record, I'd also like to say that Mr. Anathan has worked hand in hand to keep the costs down with the ARPA consultants. I was very concerned about spending $400,000 for somebody just to talk to us, which is essentially what they do, to say, you can do this, you can't do that. So he was very judicious with getting on the phone with them. I don't know why there was an expectation that he could have recorded it. I think that would have been a great idea, Mr. Anathan, had you recorded it. It would, as I had asked you for some of those documents a year ago. It would have been a great idea had you recorded it. However, the notion is that administration is somehow just doing whatever they want and not bringing stuff to the commission. And we don't know where these consultants came. We don't know where these consultants came from. And again, we are following the request that the commission laid out, that the commission approved to the letter. And at this stage, is my understanding that we are presenting all of these projects to legal for their review at our future commission meeting. So if legal has all of these projects, will be presented again to legal in one resolution. It's already been prepared. If the commission changes anything tonight, or it'd be the will of the commission changes anything tonight, we will update it and edit and bring all the projects back for a one-time approval. So it not seem to be piecemeal, which was a concern that, you know, every 2 weeks we have an ARPA project that gets approved and not the whole package. So we will be bringing the whole package. That's the purpose of this workshop. You know, following the last workshop, we will be bringing the whole package forward after we have a discussion with you and you have any feedback on anything that you might want to say. And we actually have a recommendation too, with the historic fire station. The cost that we have, as Ms. Adelina Gross had put for the admin building, is a lot more higher. So one of our recommendations, if they be the will of the commission, will you let us take the money, some of the money that was set aside for the fire station, and put it toward the HR building, because we have enough money to do one, but not enough money to do both. So we look forward to having this workshop, getting it complete, getting your will, getting your feedback, and bringing it back to you next week as a full package for review and approval.
Thank you.
One last thing.
No,
Okay.
no, thank you. Mr. Anathan was about to speak.
So yes,
Thank you. I do have to make one statement really quick. Mr. Manager, if you can get an old school shade, put
There's so many times.
up here, well, they did put
I've
the,
asked for that to happen. Maybe what you saying that they'll do it. I've been telling this for the longest. It's so
I've never
bright.
received that
maybe
from you,
can
sir.
put a
So
flag, yes, that might help.
I've mentioned that several times
Get cited this
to
way.
you and to Ms. Lawson.
Well, we talked about this, they put the,
Put the flag there, but that's not
no,
enough.
not the
Lawson,
flag,
yeah,
they
so-
put a,
we'll get a shade. We'll get a shade for you.
okay. It's gonna work. I'll
So,
just slide back some.
I don't know if we're done. I know Mr. Anathan is gonna come up with more presentation. But I think my expectation for this workshop was that we would go back to see what was discussed from 2022. And there was a lot that was discussed in 2022. I know Commissioner Kelly, you made mention that, you know, you weren't here. So it's almost as if we're 2022 is a long time ago, and we were also still in the pandemic, kind of sort of coming in and out. I don't remember, but there was a lot of discussion and a lot of changes, a lot of conversations, not just on the dais, but then of course there was a community workshop as well. And so I think my expectation, what I think I would have wanted to see out of this workshop was, I'm gonna say it again, backwards planning. What was talked about, and these were some of like nice little bullets of these are, you know, I saw those three, but that was pretty much it. And then here we are in 2024, and then here's what we can now check off what was done from 2022 to 2024. And I'm saying, if you're able to do that, because I can't do that. Like I can't quite understand with this backup so that we can say, okay, this was done or partially done. And now we can now move forward with the next item or the next,
Well,
you understand what I'm
well,
saying?
what I thought, I mean, we haven't gotten very far in the offer portion of the workshop. I thought that they would let us know where we are, what we're expecting to have done and that kind of thing, but we're not.
It's not here though. 2022 isn't here. So if there's a separate like slide,
Madam, Vice Mayor to Commissioner Kelly, excuse me, Commissioner Williams. Yes, it's all the same information. The information from 2022 to date, the projects have not changed. So what you see on page 4, that's all of the community projects that were selected. And what you see on page 5 are all the other projects. So there is nothing that was discussed on page 22, excuse me, in 2022 that's not on pages 4 and 5.
but we talked about beautification in 22. That was a discussion with the commission.
Yes, but these are the projects that the commission gave the direction to proceed on.
Okay, so I'll wait. Because I guess I'm trying to find it and I don't see like when I go back to what I'm looking at, but go ahead, Mr. Anthony. No.
Thank you very much. If you could do your presentation in a way that it discuss all of the projects, what's been completed, and starting with pages 4 and 5.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Bob Anathan, Financial
evening.
Support Services. Before I do that, I'd like to make one point. What you saw before was a CIP presentation of which the ARPA portion was just one part, ARPA had nothing to do with beautification or anything else. The only thing that was referenced in that CIP presentation said ARPA money is going to be spent on the utility funds. So during the presentation, the workshop, an awful lot of things were covered, but they were funded from different sources. The only thing that was going to be funded with ARPA is water sewer, and that's basically where, ma'am? It's possible to get that slide back up again?
Mr. Anderson is going to pull up the slide from that actual workshop.
From the workshop, please. Thank you. If you see right there, there are 3 different groupings. The ARPA thing down beneath it says stormwater, water, and sewer, had nothing to do with beautification or anything else. So at the time, we talked about $6 to $7 billion of water, sewer, stormwater projects, and that's what we're talking about today. So if there's confusion about beautification being in there and other such things, I apologize, but it was not in there and it was never intended to be in there.
So the commission individually never met with anyone to talk about our plans for ARPA as well? We didn't
Yes.
have that conversation. Not just
We've
on the
had
dais.
workshops. that we said we were going to focus on the utility funds, and that was where the money was. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Okay. There was some discussion about a community workshop. Well, let me just cover the schedule very quickly, if I may, please. Go back to the ARPA presentation, please. Very quickly. Okay, next slide, please. Right here is the history of it. There was discussion about the community involvement. There were $1.5 million. There were 6 different packages put together, $250,000 per. The community was given a chance to pick 4 of them, which would accumulate to $1 million project. So the community input was recognized at that point and will be addressed again tonight during the presentation. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. These are going back to what we talked about a moment ago. These were the
Madam
community.
Vice Mayor, I don't know, you want us to hold all our questions to the end, or how you want us to do it?
Yeah, we could just, yeah,
You wanna hold on?
yes, please, because we'll never get through it if we,
Okay, he just got to remember the questions. That's okay.
Yes, sir.
okay, he got the answers, he got them.
We'll try. So very quickly, this was the community workshop. This is what the community selected. It is $1 million. As you can see, it was broken into, one project had to be broken into pieces because the 4th and 5th project's time. But this is what we're going forward with. And this is, as I said, a result of the community involvement to select the projects they're interested in. Next slide, please. These were, again, this is what I showed you on May 22nd. I'm sorry, I'm going to digress for a second. The city attorney, I'm going to get into the fray. I apologize, but it was brought up as me being non-responsive, and that's not the case. At one day, she said, I need to see all the emails. It was given to her 36 hours later. She sent me a follow-up set of questions. I answered every one of them. That's the last I heard. So that all occurred within probably a 2-day period. So anyhow, back to this. This is the projects that were presented 2 weeks ago. And basically, I can talk through them or I can answer any question anybody may have at this point in time. I will point out that the consultants, bottom line, we did have a contract with the consultants, which we used to guide us to keep us out of trouble. We, as the manager said, we use it very judiciously. We said, please take a look at the projects we want to do. Are they sufficient under ARPA? They came back and said, yes. Did we record it? No, we did not. I should point out the $7,355 for the consultants. That's all we think we are going to spend at this time, because it's our understanding, based on the commentary of the May 22nd meeting, that the projects would be basically vetted and overseen by the city attorney. So we don't see additional expenditures there. I can address any other line item that is of interest that we didn't cover 2 weeks ago.
Okay, Commissioner Kelly?
Thank you. Let's go back to your page 2.
Yes, sir.
We engaged the consultant on June 10th of 22.
Yes, sir.
The community had a workshop on the 23rd of January, correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell me what happened between June 10th and January 23.
We did not move forward with all speed. We knew we had the December 31st, 24 to worry about. We would want to make sure all the projects we identified would be in state to be encumbered by the end of December of this year.
So from June 10th, 22 to January 23, we didn't do anything.
We worked with the consultants we had an initial meeting with them, recognized how they were going to staff it. We decided we did not need that level of support. We did ask them the questions between that and as time progressed after
So
that.
we decided that we were not going to need them.
No, sir. What we decided, when we had the first meeting with them, they ended up putting something like 10 people into the meeting, which really didn't contribute to anything. So as the manager said, we recognized how they were going to do business, and we decided we could be much more effective just asking questions of them, getting guidance when we weren't comfortable with something.
So what did we accomplish? That's what I'm trying to get at. Since we weren't paying them because they had too many people, so we decided to do it ourselves. So we weren't paying them.
No, sir. We decided not to have these big meetings where the staff were.
No, we're not paying them because we're doing it ourselves now.
Okay, on the calendar, you can see that at the moment, we had a contract that was based off a state management contract.
Let me remind you, Mr. Anthem, I wasn't here, so
So I know that.
whatever occurred, I need to know specifically. You have a consultant engaged on June 10th.
Yes, sir.
From then until the 23rd of January 2023, where that community workshop was held, that's the time frame. You're saying they brought too many people to the meeting. You decided it's too many. We don't need them. We're going to do it in-house. Is that what you
No,
said?
sir. I said we were going to use them judiciously. We were
Okay,
going
so
to
we
ask
didn't
them.
spend any money.
Well, as you can see, we spent $7,000 over the last year and a half.
So we only spent 7,000. So we've not spent 400,000.
No, sir.
Okay. So we spent that amount of money. So we had the community workshop on the 23rd. Now, again, my colleagues are referencing beautification, whatever, and I'll wait to hear those comments. That was part of the initial, I guess, April or July 22 meetings. Okay, so then May 24th, I remember the workshop. I remember the community came out and they decided, on the project. I remember that. So that 1 million there, I'm not really referencing, but we knew that was 1 million that the community had said.
Yep.
And we were going to go by that. So from January 23rd to May 24th, tell me what has happened.
What has happened is we knew what projects we wanted to do. We wanted to make sure that they were going to be in good shape so they could be fully encumbered by December of this year. As it turned out, one of the projects that we thought we were going to do, because of design issues, we had to take off the list, but we did not. We were just making sure the design of all various projects were ready to
Which
go.
project is that?
The one that had to drop off the list was Pump Station 12. It's not on the list anymore.
So all of the items other than Pump Station 12 that have been identified are there. The 1 million per community. And so from the 23rd of January up until now, until May 24 of this year, where this consultant says contract expiration, we've gotten everything together.
Yes, sir.
Why is it taking that long to get them together? And I don't know what together means, so you got to find that for me.
In most cases, it means making sure the design work is done in time so that the construction can be encumbered.
And who was doing that work?
Who was doing the work?
Who was doing the design and all that?
Various engineers.
Hours?
We hired.
I'm saying that the city has as a part of our.
Yeah, contracted engineers, not city employees.
No, same ones that I referenced earlier to Ms. Gross about
Exactly.
not giving us numbers right and all that. The same folks.
Yes.
There it is again, my colleagues. There it is right there. And January 23rd to May 24th, in essence, outside of the 1 million projects that were selected by the community, and now we at May 24th, the consultant, I guess, contract expired. We no longer need them anyway, I guess, because.
It's not a question not needing them, but the contract for the moment has expired.
Okay, so the contract expired. We've only paid them 7,000
Correct.
some odd dollars. So does that contract need to be continued? Because I just heard you mention earlier that the attorney could vet the things now or whatever. And
That was our understanding from the May 22nd.
Pardon me?
I said that was our understanding from the May 22nd meeting.
That the attorney would vet them?
That the contracts, that she was the one responsible for ensuring that the program adhered to the ARPA requirements.
Why would the attorney be responsible for the adherence of ARPA contracts? Because I'm trying to, well, then why do we have them in the first place? Okay.
And then now I'm picking up on the back end, Vice Mayor, and through the Vice Mayor, I'm picking up now on the back end, not even knowing. And when I said I haven't heard anything since, what I mean by that is I still have no descriptions of this. You all directed in the last meeting when you talked about this for the management to get with me and come back. Nobody got with me. The only thing I got was the email I requested from Mr. Anathan. He sent me, basically stuff that didn't say anything. And now I'm in a position where they look like they're putting it in my lap. So my recommendation would be, yeah, go back and get whoever you had before to look at whatever else this is, because they obviously had more information than I do right now to say, yes, go forward in whatever form they did, which sounds like it was just verbal. So I am uncomfortable with this. I don't know what all of these things mean or what they go for or what the projects were supposed to support. I have nothing. And it's supposed to be procured. All of this is supposed to be procured. So that's unclear, even what procurement took place. So with that, I feel like I've adequately put it on the record, and I'll be quiet.
Okay, let me get my other questions out and then my colleagues can. Okay, so from that time frame to now, nothing has really occurred other than the community weighed in. I won't deal with the contract for the consultant. You made a presentation on the 22nd to the commission meeting. I remember that. And obviously we're having a workshop here today. Now I want to go into the projects themselves because I thought, as my colleague said, that's why we were kind of here to really do this. The community selected projects. This is your page, whatever, I don't know, 3.
Page 4.
Community selected projects, a million other projects, etc. What is the total amount of ARPA funding currently not encumbered? It must be done so by the 31st.
31st of December,
Right.
correct? On the last page, you'll see the expenditures. The only one that is an active program.
What page are you on?
Well, I'm talking to, let me stick on page 4. Of the 5 projects listed there, the only one that's active, as it says on the right-hand side, is the rental assistance, and that's been $155,000 so far to date. Both,
So the rental assistance is 155,000.
yes, sir.
Okay, so that's the only one that's at
Oh,
the
I'm sorry, I'll
moment.
take that back. I think the line above it, the one that says Helen Miller Siegel Ingram Park renovation has been fully encumbered. I'm sorry.
Wait a minute, where you at?
On the same page, page
Page
4.
4.
Yeah, but I think it's
One,
better to.
one line above it.
Okay, so the Helen
Page
Miller
7.
Siegel Park,
He's looking at.
Ingram Park renovation.
Yeah, managed to suggest we go to page
Page
7,
7,
which shows
'cause
what's actually.
I believe what you're really asking, Commissioner
sir.
Kelly, is
It's on page
what you've been
7.
spent. What have you spent? What have you done?
It's right there. I was trying to wing it from page 4.
But I think that what he's asking is, so this is all together. Commissioner Kelly is asking about community selected projects.
Yes, sir.
This is all
Yes, ma'am.
clumbered together.
Of the community selected, the 2 are the rental assistance and the one at the bottom, Helen Miller Siegel Ingram Park renovations. Those
Okay,
are
so,
the community.
all right,
selected.
so you got all right. The community projects that you have that was brought forward by the community. You mentioned rental assistance and you mentioned Helen Miller, and you go to
Yeah.
page 7, that's 180,000 and 151.
Yes, sir.
So those 2 total is all you've
Those are 2 have been either expended or encumbered
Encumbered.
at this point. Yes, sir.
okay. So if you take those 2 numbers, and again, I'm trying to look at the community, what the community selected, because community selected all of these, but yet we only have 2 of them that's partially encumbered or whatever. And then I'm looking at the rest of them, RFP under development, Ingram initial phase. Which phase is that? Is that for the Ingram side, the Siegel side, the Helen Miller side?
That's for the Siegel Park. That's for the pathways and parking.
It's under contract, so we actually have a contract that's been for that.
I've just been told yes.
Been told yes.
I thought the answer is yes, but it's been confirmed.
So that's the pathways and what else?
Parking lot.
And the parking lot. So we have a vendor encumbered for that,
Yes, sir.
which is supposed to start when?
And the contractor will be starting next month.
Next month.
Yes.
Okay. So assuming, no, I'm not going to assume. So that's the first phase. Pathways, that's under contract. So we can count that because that's encumbered. 155,000 for rental systems is encumbered. And then all of the others that you have on page 7 in various pieces are encumbered.
Yes,
So
sir.
total you have 1,030,000 encumbered.
Out of 8 million. Yes, sir.
Okay, so in terms of all those that are encumbered but not worked on, that includes everything else, I guess.
Say again.
Everything that outside of that, that's encumbered but not worked on yet would fit
Correct.
under the,
It's not encumbered. In some cases, the RFPs have come out and back. In other cases, the RFPs still have to go out.
okay. So the community projects that are under development, RFP, are they all due back by when?
They haven't, those RFPs have not gone out yet.
Then they have
Uh,
not gone out yet?
Well, you asked Artscape and Trees, those have not gone out yet. Fire station, HR building has been talked to. That has not gone out yet.
Okay, and it says the commercial grants will be presented in June, so
Yes.
that's presented. That was, I know I missed the meeting, so,
No, it has not been presented. I checked today. Apparently it's in the pipeline. It's been submitted for approval. There's legal sufficiency, as I understand, has not come back yet.
okay. So basically much of nothing has really been encumbered,
No, sir.
although you got them there.
Yes, sir.
So we're still waiting on RFPs for under development on 2 of them in terms of the Artscape and Trees. The Helen Miller, Siegel, Ingram Park, the pathways and the parking, and how much of that is that contract?
As we saw on the other page, 188.
That part is 180,000.
Yeah, that's the part.
So then for the Ingram, Siegel, Helen Miller, you only got 70,000 left
Left to go. Yes, sir.
to go on that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the other projects that you have listed here, the on the other projects that I guess your list.
Yes, sir.
Given that the community voted on those, I'm real hopeful that they're going to come back real soon to get to the commission, so we're not under the quickness of having to approve something to get it encumbered and then have the challenge later on. On all of these that are infrastructure related or engineering related, we're still using the contractors, engineers, that group that I referenced earlier.
Correct.
That's still our 0.2 group.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the ARPA for the water main, 500,000 and going all the way down the list, that total equals 6.9. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to mention Caroline. So how much money do you have after the $1 million for the community projects, assuming a perfect world, they don't cost any more because you're only 30,000, I guess, over.
If I understand the question properly, there's going to be $1 million allocated, but I'm not sure if I'm answering your question properly. I mean,
Well, it's $1 million
felt-
allocated, but according to your numbers of what you've expended encumbered already, you're gonna, this will be $1,030,000 already
Yes, sir.
to date.
Correct.
Okay.
Out of the 7,000,009, we obviously have about 6,000,009 to go in terms of encumbering.
Yeah, that's just not.
Right, you
The
got 6, I
community.
haven't got there yet. So you got 6.9 on the other projects.
Correct.
Okay. But my biggest concern with all of these, none of them are really ready to roll. And a lot of them are still under development. Why is it taking that long to get these that far?
I may have to defer.
Good evening again. I will go project by project, so we can
ahead.
discuss it. I think this is page 5, please. 135th Street water main, there is a water pressure issue for fire hydrants in that section. So that's the reason this project has been included. This is a recent added project to this because this is an emergency project, basically. Rodland water main and meter relocation.
No, I'm
Yes, sir.
not, you don't have to explain the project.
Yes.
What I want to know is, why is it taking so long?
Yes.
And the RFP is under development, or just went out, or haven't come back, nearly complete, all the things on the right hand, the explanation. Given the fact that they've been identified through whatever process, I'm not challenging why you decided or why you picked the project. Why is it taking so long, considering I go back to the time frame of May, I mean, of 22, and even getting to January 23, here we are in May 24. Some of these that I look at, and again, I could be wrong, you knew they were issues. You know you were gonna do these. Why does it take so long to get the RFP under development? Why does it take so long that the RFP has not went out?
So most of these projects that were selected, like pump stations, all of them were in the early stage of design. Once we complete design usually takes between 6 to 9 months, sometimes even longer. We have to go through the permitting process, and then after that, RFP is developed by the engineering company with the specifications for all those projects.
Okay, I don't want to just belabor the point, but I'm looking at some of these pump stations, some of these rehabs, some of these things, they're not new. They're not new in terms of needing work done. I won't get into specifics. They're not new, but yet I'm looking at some of them where the RFP, like I said, to be developed, under development, when we've known over the course of time the challenges. Now, maybe we didn't have the funding, and so we're going to use ARPA funding, but that's where my questions really are. And also, like Station 9, 16, and even the 133rd Street relocation. You got proposed received, they received. So when do they anticipate coming forward?
Commissioner, one thing I wanted to point out, the first three projects, I mentioned a moment ago that pump station 12 had to be taken out of the list. The first three are new within the last 2 to 3 months. So that's the reason why they're not fully developed at this point in time. I'll defer again to Adelina in terms of the technical question, but I want you to understand the first three are new, and that's why they seem to be lagging behind the rest of the projects.
Okay, then Caroline, I guess is the moving target. It says it's out until July, and that's because we've seen some other changes.
And the RFP is expected to be out in July. We are still under permitting with Miami-Dade County.
So we spend the 1.9 of ARPA, you're saying other. So to complete that is going to require another 3.7 that you already. I'm just looking at the same thing you're looking at.
Is it grant money?
Sorry. I didn't follow that question.
Okay, you got 1.9, you says other 3.7.
Oh, yeah.
And the RFP is out. It's going to
No.
cost a total of 5.
It's going to be 5.6 million.
Right. So the 3.7, I'm saying we already have that funding
Yes, sir.
from other sources.
Yep.
We're just going to use ARPA 1.9 to.
Correct. And what
hopefully
says our
complete.
RFP is tentative to go out, as Adeline's just said, there's been a permit issue. So it's just, I think we just got the permits approved within the last couple of weeks. RFP is not going out yet.
Okay.
Just to clear the record, we haven't yet.
Pardon me?
We haven't received the permits yet, just to clear the record. Yeah,
So
it's kind
we
of.
actually, I had to get involved with that one, Commissioner Kelly, and have a meeting with Durham and send a message to Mayor Cava's office. And I also had a meeting with the county CFO because Durham had refused to provide us with permittings. And it wasn't until after those meetings that they were directed by the leadership down at the county to move forward with our permits.
Okay. My last statement, and my colleagues, I know they have questions. My concern and what I would hope to see from the manager's office, all of these under development, to be whatever, we really got to look at them almost on every 2-week basis or something to keep the commission really informed of where they are. Because outside of that, we're going to get to September or October, with a whole bunch of last minute trying to encumber stuff and probably still not going to hit the ground with any shovels until January, but at least be encumbered. And that's really the concern I have with looking at these. But I thank you for your answers. Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions I might be able to answer?
I, I think
Must be
so.
one more out there.
Well, I don't know if it's a question. It could be, I just wanted to, and I'll repeat it when Commissioner Bass comes, through the Vice Mayor. The minutes for the July 18th meeting were just handed to us. I am imploring, if that's the word, I can't, that the commission read these minutes page by page, get a highlighter, get multiple colors, because you're going to see from 2 years ago that we are here talking about the exact same thing that we talked about in July 2022. Right here, it says, Commissioner Dominguez asks if the city has a time frame by which the American Rescue Plan Act fund needs to be spent. Capital Improvement Projects Director, Ms. Gross, informed the commission that the ARPA funds needs to be encumbered by December 31st, 2024 and spent by 2026. I am going to tell you, you're going to see when you read these minutes why I'm frustrated, why the mayor's frustrated, because these minutes are glaring. And I know you just got them, so it's hard to understand why I'm saying what I'm saying. But I'm telling you, I'm asking every member of the dais, read these minutes, because this by far, and it is page by page of Mayor Williams asking, what's the $1 million going to? Discussion on beautification. I was just told nothing has to do with beautification. What's artscape?
That is beautification.
What's trees?
I stand corrected.
Medians and swells.
I stand corrected.
Renovation of the parks. That wouldn't fall kind of, sort of. I think it would, because it beautifies the parks. See what I'm saying? It's that back and forth. I got people out here, no beautification. I know, and it's pages where I know that I spoke on beautification.
Yes, ma'am. I believe beautification there is a much bigger expenditure than what ARPA was going to be used for. Beautification, I believe, is.
Mr. Anderson, please go back and read the minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm asking you to.
Yes, ma'am.
And everybody else on that is involved, because there were, when the $1 million was presented to the community, beautification, what would you like to see under it?
And it's there.
This, what would you like to see under that? That's why you see it there under community. Because we allowed them, and we, quite frankly, only gave the community $1 million to do what they, thought to be done. If anything moved, that should have moved. Like nothing else. Fine, I could have sat here and saw underdevelopment. I mean, I wouldn't have liked to see it, but on page 3 of the minutes, Mayor Williams asked what percent of the ARPA funds is being proposed to go to capital improvements. Project Director Adelina Gross said 70 to 75% of the funds are being proposed for capital improvement. It's there.
Yes, ma'am. And I think that number has gone up to probably about 90%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did we vote on it? I don't know. Did we vote to take more? And you see more and more where I'm asking, what about this 25%? What about this percent? Commissioner at the time, Vice Mayor Taylor, we're all asking questions. I'm just saying now, if you can't see the frustration that I'm having,
Yes, ma'am.
it's outlined what we wanted to see. And so again, I'll say it again. Because whether I'm here today or another commissioner is up here, those of you all that are new here, you're going to be frustrated that you're talking about projects and ideas and you want things to move in the city and it's not happening. So, I mean, I know Commissioner Kelly, broke down, but really nothing. Community selected projects. I mean, under development, initial phase. I don't know why anything should have taken this long. Even the rental assistance didn't even take up the whole amount.
No, ma'am, that's progressive as people appear.
But is it happening? We don't know because we're not getting briefed on that. We don't know. I don't know. I haven't gotten a brief on the rental assistance in a very long time when it comes to under ARPA funds. So we're left to sit here and just guess what is happening here. I know you didn't get to other projects. I think you did because I was too busy reading the minutes and getting even more upset. But it's just, I don't know. So when I see things should have been done, because it's on record, it's right here, it's on record. It says December of 2024. Well, what's next December? What's next December?
2024.
2025. And then 2026, the funds gotta be, is done.
Yes, ma'am.
So it
We're
almost
on
sounds
track for
like,
that. We're on track for that.
And I'd also like to point out,
Okay.
everything you mentioned is on page 4. It's there. The
I'm
Artscape
looking.
program is there. The trees program is
no, it
there.
was said that nothing fell under beautification.
That
I
was
was
I
saying that is
misspoke.
inaccurate because
Okay,
I
gotcha.
said that.
No, ma'am, because I was,
He corrected himself.
No, but I know, I remember this.
yes, ma'am, I was thinking you were talking about trash pickup and things like that. I was wrong. Because that was all part of the beautification portion.
Madam Vice Mayor,
Yes.
just for clarification, I was wondering if Mr. Anthony, he said something earlier about something waiting legal sufficiency, and I was just trying to clarify what he was referring to.
When I checked on that today, I was told it was submitted to the city attorney's office and had not been, I think it was originally scheduled for the June 12th commission meeting. And when I checked today, I was told it had never come out of the city attorney's office.
You mean it had not been sent to us, correct?
No, ma'am, my
No,
understanding
it's
had
not
been.
true.
Okay, that's why I'm trying to figure out.
Yes,
What was
for some time, the commercial grant program that you have said significantly that we need, community development has submitted it to you for several times and you say it's not sufficient. It needs more documentation. It's not ready, but it's been submitted to you for several times for
Okay,
legal
let
sufficiency.
me clarify because that is absolutely
Of course.
inaccurate. So what we were asking, what we were told was that something fell under ARPA funding and that we should look at under ARPA funding, right? And then just today, I actually asked about the same issue. Was it dealing with historic homes? Is that the issue? Do you know what it was about, Bob? Because I'm trying to figure out
It's
what
the
you're talking
commercial
about.
grants.
Because and that's why I'm doing it in the open, because this is the only place I can do it. But there had been something that had come out. Do you know what it relates to, Bob? So that we can track what you're talking about?
There was,
Bob,
It's commercial grants.
I know,
is it dealing with historic property?
No, that was the question I received today. The agenda item on the historic properties have anything to do with ARPA money?
Bob,
And the
answer the question.
The answer was
Commercial
no,
grants.
no. Well, I'm
Is it-
answering the question I was asked today.
Answer the question. I'm
The best,
directing you to answer.
the subject that is under ARPA is I'm sorry now. I'm sorry, the commercial grants,
Thank you.
as indicated there.
Okay, so is that the item that's on the next agenda? Dealing with,
Is it on the next agenda?
is it on the next, okay, is that the item that we
No,
were
it's
giving?
not.
Is
No.
that the item
No,
that we were
it's not that
giving?
item.
that we were given an application for with no backup? Is that what you're referring to?
Well, I'm not sure what you're stating, but you've been presented with the commercial grant program in several different reiterations, and you've rejected it several times for lack of legal sufficiency, not sufficient backup. And we've presented you with actual applications from Tamarack and several different other cities is never sufficient.
That's what we're trying to figure out because neither one of us know what you're referring to. Are you talking about an item that's going
I
on the
will
next?
present the
Madam Vice Mayor.
Are you talking about an
It's-
item that's
Vice
going
Mayor.
on the next
Yes.
agenda? Because I don't
Vice
want to,
Mayor,
Yes.
I mean, we wouldn't be
Vice
asking.
Madam
Mayor.
Attorney, yes.
let me just say this, you know, I trying to stay calm in my last few months. To this commission, until y'all have, so we, not y'all, so we have a meeting and get all of 3 folks on the same page, we're gonna have this challenge. We can't keep ignoring the elephant in the room. Okay, we can't keep ignoring the elephant in the room, and I'm not going to do it. This is a workshop, so we can't pass nothing or really discuss nothing. We're not voting on anything, but I'm gonna put that on the record. It keeps coming up with information, regardless of who you believe, something is not correct. And for the city to move forward with all of our challenges under state emergency with ARPA funds that still have not been encumbered, we've got to deal with that. And the mayor's not here, so I'm just saying it, but I'll say it again next week as well. We have got to deal with that. You cannot move a city forward where your 3 folks are not on the same page. They ain't got to agree on everything, but they got to be on the same page. And we're not getting information. We're not sure about certain things, even amongst ourselves, even with the presentation. And this is the last thing I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna not say anything else. I tried to scam this, and the more I scam, the more frustrated I am looking at some of the stuff. Vice Mayor, you ain't had a chance to look at it yet, but when you look at it, I'm scamming it. Some of the stuff I'm seeing that was projected and proposed and looked at and even got project costs and funding or whatever, and has not been done, I'm going to look at the whole thing. But for the purpose of this workshop, you know, we presented the information. We can't do a whole lot because everything is really under development. But when you're tired to look at some of the things that I've seen here, there is some glaring question as to why the process has moved so slowly. But I appreciate the information that's been given. But I'm going back to the statement I just said. This commission is going to have a real heart-to-heart with our 3 appointed folks. You can't keep ignoring that. It's not good for the city. It's not good for the progress of the city. And with saying that, Madam Vice Mayor, it's in your hands.
Madam Vice Mayor, the clerk just gave me what we think the manager is referring to, which actually is something that was pulled
may I
with the
ask you a
pulled
question?
by the
Excuse me.
manager.
Excuse me, Madam
Yes.
Attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you and the attorney talk about this? I'm sorry, can you and the city manager talk about this?
But we have done the item. That's the thing. So, but anyway, we can try. We've tried, but the
Well,
clerk just gave me
You
verification
are
of
gonna
what
have
I'm
to try a
talking
little
about.
harder because we're not gonna do this
Very well.
back and forth, back and forth.
We just
We're
want,
not doing it.
I just wanted accurate information.
So,
Now,
Madam
thank
Vice
you.
Mayor, with all due respect, it puts us in a position because the stuff still got to come to us. So they got to be on the same page for it gets done. Otherwise, we got to ask questions and these timelines and whether it's sufficient. It ultimately comes to us and we're put on the spot. We don't get paid to get put on the spot. We get paid to set policy, to legislate. Those things come from the 3 appointed officials. And they've got to be on the same page. We don't want to do this in a meeting. So we're going to have to set some kind of setting to where we individually want to talk to them, corporately want to talk to them, but this keeps happening. And it can't keep happening.
I agree.
And they ain't gonna talk, they can't obviously work it amongst themselves. So this commission has got to deal with it because otherwise, I don't care how many millions of dollars you got. And you go back to what you just said earlier and the marketing person and commissioner will in, wonder why people don't want to deal with us? If they're watching this workshop, would you
Yeah.
want to give us $500,000 for Arabian Nights or $200,000 or $100,000 for bingo? No.
No.
That's the real issue. So we need to deal with that. I appreciate the information. I'm going to look at the other document. The bottom line is we've got about, $6-7 million we got to get encumbered before December 31st. So I'm hopeful by the next meeting that some of these will be further along that we get some updates on, because I'm going to be asking about them every meeting, just like all of us, and I'm going to read the other documentation, but, you know, we're going to have to deal with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you finished, Mr. Anthony? Thank you very much. Miss Adelina Gross, thank you. We're done.
Madam Vice Mayor,
I'm sorry. Yes.
just one last thing, and I'm not gonna be a dead horse, is beat, broken, and dismembered. But, and we only can use these workshop settings to have these conversations with ourselves, and I'm sure, Mayor Taylor will either watching or will go back to watch. But I'm speaking to the commission. If you look at the past, here in the great city of Opa-locka, if this stuff, when it comes to millions of dollars this is federal money that was, given to our city, and quite frankly, all the cities, all municipalities, and was given this money, and this may have been a pretty good lion's share that was given to our city. At the end of the day, when things don't work out, our 3 charter members, the only thing that's going to happen to them is they're going to get fired. No, I mean, like, that's just what what happens in our
But we
city.
still have to deal with the aftermath regardless.
But we're the ones that are in the news, and we're the ones that take the fall for the things that happen in the city. And we will be the ones, not but we will be the one because we're making decisions and we're not really wrapping our head around these things that should be happening. Because when we're talking about federal dollars, and we're saying yes and no and yes and no and a lot of yeses and maybe not enough no's to certain items, but we will be the ones that will be in the news. So we need to really, at this point, take a strong look at what's happening all over. I get it. Maybe, I mean, I'm going to tell you, my mama always said, and I'm going to say it again, silence means consent. Silence means consent. So we got to really take a look at what is happening in the city when it comes to this budget, because money will land you in jail. And I'm not. It's not going to happen. Because you've never seen a city manager go to jail. They just get fired. All I'm saying is we have to start taking a look at all of this information. And I'm sorry, Mr. Williams, you can look at Miss all day. It's not personal. I'm just saying this has been the history of Opa-locka. So you can look at Miss Lawson, no big deal.
I'll respond.
I'm saying it's the history of Opa-locka, the history. And I'm saying I'm nervous, I'm troubled, and I'm not going to just keep letting this happen while I stay on this board, that we don't take a real long, hard look at what this money and what's happening to it. And if we don't understand it, then we need to go out and find some people that can explain what is happening and explain it the way we need to know. But I'm going to be honest, quite frankly, I'm very nervous that we're not going to meet our mark because we keep moving that goalpost and spending more. And I'm sorry, I'm nervous. And I'm just going to put that on record.
Thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Okay, meeting adjourned.